Today, I'm sitting down with a guy who did not use a telephone until 1989 as an adult, the first time he left home to go to college. He grew up in the backwoods of Idaho, homesteading with his family, where they built a bunch of the wilderness airstrips that still exist today using his dad's helicopter. He designed and developed the first power sharpener for pocket knives, and he is responsible for most of the pocket knife sharpener designs that we really love out there. He's also the guy behind the new RMX design over at Worksharp. Today, I'm sitting down with Dan Dovel, head engineer over at Worksharp, and I am so excited to finally share this video with you guys because I've just had it sitting in the archives for months and months and months because Dan really dives into the RMX, the design process, ideas behind different things, why things work, why things didn't, and there was too much information to be released before the knife itself was released. So we had to wait for some of you guys to get RMXs in hand, and then I could release this awesome conversation that we have. Now, because I shot it so long ago, it comes with two notes. The first note is you're going to notice in this video that Dan refers to the design as the day shift. That was a prototyping name that they were using at the time. Obviously, Worksharp ended up landing on the RMX, but that's how long ago this conversation was. They didn't even have an official name for the knife yet. So the day shift is the RMX. The second note is that this is a fairly long sit down, but I promise you, if you take this thing in chunks or sit down and binge the whole thing at one time, you are going to get more out of this video than almost any other video or any other conversation that I've had on this channel. And the reason is because Dan is a knife user and abuser. By his own admission, he is a knife consumer, not just that he buys knives, but that he blows through them. And ever since he was a kid, he has just been using knives as tool, beating them to death, and then coming back for more. He said that he's been through over 100 different multi-tools, having broken them, fixed them, modified them, warrantied them. I mean, he is just a wealth of knowledge, and it was so much fun to sit down with him and dive through all of that. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this thing because it was such a blast to go back in and just basically remember some of the touch points that we talked about in this video, and I'm so excited to share it with you guys. Now, the other note for this video is that it is sponsored by Huckberry. Now, if you guys have been watching the channel, you already know. Huckberry is a one-stop men's shop. They have every type of living EDC outdoor gear that you could want, and it is wonderfully curated. That's something that I love about working with Huckberry, is not only are they a website that sells stuff and it's cool or whatever, but they just don't miss, in my opinion. I mean, you can go through the Huckberry website and you're going to see, even if something's not for you, it is well curated, it's well thought out, it's well made, and it's meant to last. And that is no exception with the brand Flint & Tinder over there. I've had the chance to try out a bunch of different jackets and sweatshirts and shirts from the Flint & Tinder brand, and I absolutely love them. And the nice thing is it's finally starting to cool down, and so it is definitely jacket season. So if you are trying to get yourself into a new jacket, get yourself into something that's gonna last for a long time, I can 100% recommend the quilted jacket from Flint & Tinder. Absolutely love it. It's got a nice button up. It's got a really classic look. Of course, the wax trucker jacket. I got the lined version. I've had that one actually for a few years, and it is amazing. And as you can see, it just gets better and better with use. And then finally, the jacket that I'm actually wearing right here, which is the chore coat. It's got a ton of different pockets, which again, I mean, one of the nice things as a gear guy with the fall is you can carry more gear. And so I've really been loving the chore jacket, not only for being kind of a 365 jacket. I mean, this is something you could wear early mornings in the summer or late evenings, depending on where you live, but also just being a nice piece to layer with and a bunch of different pockets. So thank you so much, Huckberry. And if you guys haven't yet, I've got a link down in the description. You can shop all of the different things that I just mentioned, and definitely go check out this epic Dream Year giveaway that Huckberry is doing. I think it is an amazing opportunity, and it's Huckberry putting their money where their mouth is, because they're all about adventure. They're all about, you know, living an authentic life, and they are giving somebody out there, hopefully one of you guys, a great opportunity to win basically a year to do whatever you want, and the resources to do it. So make sure to check out Huckberry. Thank you guys for checking everything out. Enjoy the show. How's it going, guys, and welcome to Five Knives. Today is a really fun one. So I'm actually up at Worksharp's headquarters, and I'm sitting down with Dan Dovel, who is their principal engineer. He is the brainchild behind the original knife and tool sharpener and every subsequent product that you've ever seen from Worksharp. So everything you love about Worksharp, a lot of that starts with this guy right here. And he has been a knife enthusiast for over 50 years. So we're gonna have some fun stuff to talk about, I think. And Dan, thanks for being here, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah. We're here at Worksharp. You're the man behind so much of what we love, which is absolutely amazing. And so you know the format, man. I sent over a list of knives. You were like, yeah, let's do it. Dan's actually on vacation technically right now, so we're eating into his vacation time, but stoked to have you. And we're gonna kick it off with first knives. I see you have a collection over here going on, so yeah.
So I'm not a sentimental guy, so I don't hold on to stuff, and I'm also a knife consumer. And so I'm positive that my first knife is long gone, broken, used up, whatever. But I brought a selection of stuff that, I'm old enough that it was slip joints,
Cool.
back in the day,
Yeah,
butts,
yeah, yeah.
old timers, cases,
Yeah.
nothing amazing, but I had several of these that I've got around, maybe 50
Yeah.
or so that have cycled through. I'm really partial to the old, carbon steel blades.
Yeah.
And so most of what I have will be well patinaed or rusty.
I love it. I love it. And I love the classification that you say you're a knife consumer, because, and not consumer in that you buy knives, because of course you do,
Yeah.
but in that you use your knives up, which I really, really love the idea of that, right? And in the conversations that we've had in the past, you guys, we did a video with Worksharp where we were talking kind of you about your process here at Worksharp. So if you guys want to check that out, check it out. But just talking to you in the past, like the way that you use knives, and you even did our Preparinator 3000 challenge at one of the at one of the blade shows. And I just love like your whole philosophy around it is just, use it up, right? Like there's a saying that I really love, and that's destroy it to enjoy it. And I think you really personify that, destroy it to enjoy it. So when it comes to first knives, so slip joints, right? And you've got like some cases on the table, right? Like it looks like you have like a Schrade or a Buck 110 or whatever it is. So when it comes to, first knives, like what was it? Because I know like you're passionate about knives well before you were working at Worksharp. Do you remember that process? Do you remember what the first knife was, or what it was like getting it?
Definitely. I mean,
Cool.
my dad was like, when I was my first knife, I think I was 4, and so it's over 50 years that I've been in the knife thing, and it was a Barlow. I can't remember what brand, but carbon steel Barlow.
Yeah.
That none of us boys got to have a knife until we could sharpen. So I literally learned to sharpen before I owned my first knife, and I was
That's amazing.
not kidding, 4 or 5 years old when I learned to sharpen on a little 1x3 stone, 1x3 pocket stone. And so you didn't carry until you knew how to maintain your knife.
I love that. I love that.
For me, knives, for years and years and years, knives were tools, and so I consumed my knives. So that Barlow's long gone. It was sharpened away or broken, maybe lost, but it's usually sharpened. Sharpened till there's nothing left or broken. I'm a sharpening guy, so I enjoy easy to sharpen steels too, and easy to sharpen knife profiles. And so I gravitate towards really thin blades and really easy to sharpen steels because I can sharpen so fast and so often.
Yeah.
So I wear knives out literally through use and sharpening.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So growing up, because like we've talked here and there, but I don't have as much history about like where you've been and what you've done, right? So what did your dad do for work? It's such an interesting concept that he's like, you have to learn how to sharpen before you can get a knife.
My dad was a guide, outfitter, helicopter pilot, backcountry pilot in Idaho.
Cool.
So we grew up. I literally grew up broke hillbilly in the mountains. That's what we did. I didn't use a telephone until my first day in college.
Whoa, for real?
Seriously, yeah.
Whoa, that's amazing. What year?
We grew our own food. Our own animals, everything.
That's amazing.
And so it was different. For what most people grew up as. We were very homesteady style, and then also we kept cabin in the backcountry of Idaho. My dad built several of the airstrips that are back there. My dad and my older brothers did, and big family, nine brothers, 9 boys in the family, and so we were workhorses.
I was gonna say in that lifestyle, you got to have hands, right? Like it doesn't work for very long with just 2 people, right? Like
hunt, build, fish, farm. That was growing up. I was the wrench of the brothers. That's what I enjoy doing. So I'm not the best hunter, fisherman. All my brothers are way better at all that than I am. I'm the fix it, build it, take it apart. For that, during those age, it was take it apart. So I literally, there was nothing that we owned that I didn't take apart and figure out how it worked, And I do that today. That's still my thing.
I was gonna say that's like, that's your job. Like that's, you know what I mean? And I know that also you kind of have your own like cool, like basically like garage lab where you're working on stuff for your house all the time as well, right?
Yeah.
But I gotta know, just because it's so interesting, what year was it that you first used a telephone?
88, maybe.
That's wild, dude. That's wild. Yeah. That's amazing. And honestly, that's shocking for me, knowing how like technically minded you are, right? Yeah. And these mechanical processes that you've been working on Workshop for the last, close to 20 years now, right? Yeah. Like since the first power sharpener. But to know that that's your background, that's absolutely incredible. Yeah. And that makes sense though, like that you would have gotten this kind of like at-home education of
Oh yeah.
taking stuff apart and putting back together at the,
Yeah.
at the homestead, right?
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's
Everybody
incredible.
hates it too, because I have to, everything I buy, I have to take apart and see how it works.
You're like,
It
"How does this
doesn't
work?"
always go back together. Sometimes it goes back together better than it was from the factory. But
I love it. I absolutely love it. And that gives me so much insight into some of the design choices on some of the sharpeners, right? And like knowing which ones you've had your hands really on, it just makes so much more sense now. Like putting those two pieces together. So now I'm just really interested. So I mean, backcountry Idaho, right? Like homesteading growing up, and then you go to college. So what did you go to college for? What was your degree?
manufacturing engineering.
Okay, so
basically,
it was straight to that.
It's
Okay.
how to build stuff.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. That's incredible.
But and that's been me ever since. Is still is this morning before I ran in, I was taking something apart and fixing it and putting it back together and modifying. I don't think I own anything except for maybe a TV, but actually computer, everything I modified. Growing up, it was out of necessity, as that's what you did. We lived out in the middle of nowhere, and so there was not this, there was no delivery service to go, and we were 100 miles from civilization, so it was find a way to fix it yourself.
That's really cool. Well, and that's it, right? I mean, it's a silly trope, but like mother's necessity of invention, right? Like I've got a lot of family that worked, like way in the middle of the desert, like running cattle and stuff in Nevada, and it was the same thing, right? And I don't know if I don't know if your homestead was similar to this, but there always seemed there was like a graveyard of a couple vehicles or of a couple things, and you could go out there and like pull parts and you know what I mean, get wiring or whatever you need.
Yeah, I think I made my first knife when I was probably 5 or 6 on old treadle style stone.
That's incredible.
Sandstone or soapstone, which are terrible, but but hours and in the middle of nowhere, sitting there pedaling that thing away, grinding some steel down, and and it was years. It was I was 10 or 15 before I figured out what heating the knife and hammering forging or pounding a knife to shape. But I would grab every piece of metal I find and grind it into it, but not out of a hobby. It was kind of like I needed a knife to do this, or cutting edge, so I found a piece of steel and I that was hard, understood hardness at that time. Edge retention a little bit. So it was always some piece of spring steel or a edge of a plow or take a broken piece of a plow shear. All over farm equipment, there's tons of good spring steel, and so I just had a heyday making making things that needed to do whatever.
That's incredible. And I mean, like like during that whole process, I mean, from 6 grinding that first knife up into like that 10, 12 area, like those are pretty serious steels. And all of those were on that trestle?
Oh no, I used whatever.
Oh, okay, cool.
We had an old bench grinder.
Cool. Okay,
We had a suicidal radial arm saw that when the cutoff saws first came out. This was probably when I was a teenager. I bolted an abrasive 12 or 13-inch abrasive cutoff saw blade to it because I could do a lot of different make a lot of different things on there that I couldn't. And knife making was never a big thing for me. I wouldn't call myself a collector or enthusiast until probably 20s or so. And it was kin onion, to tell you the truth. That
really okay.
Growing up, my dad was he was a helicopter pilot in the Korean War, and he had this thing. He was against locking knives because of the failures. And so growing up in Idaho, I'd never owned an actual locking buck knife. I owned several slip joint buck knives and stuff, but never a locking knife, because the thing is like that lock's going to fail, so never depend on it. He was always
interesting. That's a really interesting perspective. And so obviously that had to be from experiences he had as a helicopter pilot in Korea, right?
Yeah, it's kind of a survival thing. Is you don't want to do something that's going to cut you. It's that, and we spent half our time in the backcountry in Idaho, where you're literally days from getting help, and so. Like I grew up never using a hatchet for splitting wood or kindling or anything, and this was kind of my own thing because I'd seen too many people, stick a hatchet in their shin, or had too many close calls, or watching my other brothers have close calls doing that, and so I used a knife to baton, or basically you know, when I'm splitting kindling, I was using a straight edge and batoning through instead of using a hatchet, because the risk of that glancing off we've all done that and had to bounce off a knot and skim past your shin and go.
Exactly.
Where, you know, batoning is not good for the knife, but it's much safer for you. You know? So I've done stuff like that and just abused pieces of steel for years.
Oh, that's
doing
incredible.
that stuff. I still baton today to, you know, I batoned my kindling for the fire this morning.
Yeah. Dude,
rather than use a hatchet. And so I go through knives. I just eat knives because that's not a fixed blade folder. It doesn't matter. It's not good for knives. You know?
No, it's definitely not.
But they're a tool.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. Is there a tool? Like, and it's so interesting that like the start of that was so tool based for you, right? Like, like it was just like, this is what we do, and you have to have bladed objects to get this work done, right? Like cleaning an animal or batoning through wood or whatever the task at hand is. Yeah, that's so interesting. So then you go to college, you're around 20ish or whatever, and what was it that you were like, oh yeah, I'm going to get my first locking knife?
I paid my way through college, and I was a mechanic.
Okay.
And so I'm buying tools off Snap-on truck.
Okay.
And I had owned, I think before that I'd owned a locking knife, a Gerber. You know, I had an old USA Schrade.
Yeah.
That I'm sure predates that. So this is probably a high school thing that I did. So I stepped out a little bit prior to the Snap-on truck, but but I was never passionate about knives. It's always just a tool.
Yeah.
And then one day browsing through the Snap-on truck, there's this cool looking all stainless steel frame lock, which I didn't know what a frame lock was at the time. Flipper knife. It was my first one-hand flipper, and crazy shapes. Cool. And it was a Ken Onion knife.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of my, you know, I think it was one of Ken's first, you know, I can't remember what it was, a Storm, I think might have been the,
I don't think there's a model number in their name there somewhere.
I don't think that was one of my first Ken Onion knives. Yeah. I think the Storm was kind of like, I remember the Storm being, I carried a Storm for 10 years. It was such a it was a big knife in a very thin shape, and I carried one of those, you know, and then I've had maybe, that's a leak. I've had maybe 100 leaks.
I was going to say.
That I've consumed. I use leaks, super dependable, great blade shape, great knife. I use them for designing sharpeners. And so I literally consume leaks almost exclusively testing sharpening. They're very dependable knife. I've been able to get the same knife for 25 years. And so it's like the same pattern, same angles, and so I know when I'm designing, I can, you know, have a dependable base point to go.
Yeah, you know exactly what to expect because it's a constant, right?
But it was really, I didn't have a passion for knives until my first Ken Onion knife. And long before, we're friends now, but long before I ever met him, you know, or quite frankly even knew who he was, I probably owned a dozen Ken Onion knives before I knew they were Ken Onion knives.
It just the lines just drew you to it.
Correct.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So that was kind of the first time I really was like, well, knives can be more than just a tool.
Yeah.
You know? They can be fun. They're attractive. It's kind of a weird thing that this inanimate object is.
Right. You know? Calling your name.
Correct. Yeah. You know.
And people may not know, but the first powered knife and tool sharpener was actually the inspiration for the system. The belt system was based around Ken's designs.
Yeah. So Ken,
because they were hard to sharpen, right? And so
Kershaw, Storm, Leak, Scallion, recurves were that Ken kind of was, in my opinion, kind of the grandfather of all that crazy shaped blade stuff in modern folders. And, you know, I'd always sharpened on a stone my whole life. And so the inspiration for us even getting into knife sharpening was that, hey, nobody really makes a sharpener that can go handle these things because they don't work well on a stone. You need something. And so I, you know, scratched together some ideas, and that was the origination of the narrow belt, you know, really flexible sharpener, is to be able to conform to all those crazy geometries that Ken was putting out at the time.
I always love that.
So he got me into modern knives, and he got, before we even knew each other, and got me into sharpening, or got me into designing sharpeners.
Yeah.
I designed power tools and other tools for years before that, but I didn't step into the need for sharpening until, because I've always been able to do it by hand, until the Ken knives came along. I was like, these are actually difficult to sharpen on a flat stone.
You're like, I've been doing this for a long time, and this is a challenge.
And they're fun, and they're great knives. So I was like, I'm going to figure out how to do it. So
that's awesome. I think the other thing that I love about this is there must be something in Ken's design language that speaks about from where he came from and where you were coming from.
Well,
And I wonder if that's why you were so attracted to it, because Ken also grew up, as you know,
Yeah.
right? Backwoods in the South, on a homestead, fixing, like he was the same thing, mechanic. He ended up going to the military to work as a mechanic, right? Like, and so I think it's so interesting that you two have such similar backgrounds, and without even knowing him, you were drawn to those designs.
It's almost like we're brothers that didn't even know each other. And both my parents are from the same region of the U.S. that he's from, and so and grew up in the same, actually really close to, and so Ken and I are close to the same age, and it was weird after we met each other years later. That was like, oh, wow, this guy's like a brother. It's just weird.
That's so cool.
He's me being an introvert and him being an extrovert are a little bit different, but but other than that, and he's obviously from a design standpoint, it's a dream for me to ever get to his industrial design, to his shape, his, I do mechanism, he does what it looks and feels, and user interface is just his work is phenomenal. So I've been a fan forever, but we're kind of brothers now. So
I know. I as you know, I had an opportunity to go in February and shoot with Ken, and we were talking about the new sharpener and all this, and like so many times it was just fun stories. He was talking about when you come and visit, and like how you guys first met and all of that. Like it's just great times.
But he really got me into knives and into really enjoying knives rather than knives being a tool.
The amount of connections there, I absolutely love. Now, with a background like that, I'm really interested on this second topic that I sent over, and that's apocalypse knives. Because I feel like, at least out of everybody I've talked to up to this point, I feel like you actually have a pretty good perspective on what it is to make it go, right? Like,
so I don't know if it's apocalypse, but I grew up, basically having to make and build and fix whatever you got by every day. We grew our own food. We did, out of necessity, not because it was fun. I don't actually enjoy that.
Right. It's like we have to eat.
I don't like camping. I don't like doing this anymore because I grew up, out of necessity doing that. I grew up on horses and cows and pigs and farm and ranch, and it's like none of that's fun to me anymore because I know how hard work it is too.
Yeah,
I'm
is
lazier as I get older, but
definitely hard work.
but I respect it and I understand it, and so that's my apocalypse knife will probably be a lot different than a lot of people's. I do keep a bug out bag, with I call it a fantasy bag because I'll never use it. Hopefully, right? It's a fantasy bag, not a practical bug out bag. I have been evacuated a couple times and I grabbed it both times.
Cool.
But in there is necessities that are also very easy to maintain and replenish in some cases. My tools are, multi-tools. I have a big chopper in there that's never been used, as my baton.
To be able to cut your wood, right? Like,
and then a Glock 26, a Kel-Tec sub 2K, because I can feed those very easily with readily available, that type of thing. But from a knife standpoint, if I had to pick one, that was the weird part of this. It'd be a multi-tool.
Multi-tool. Okay.
Because I can go make any knife I need as long as I can build what I need to, and fixed blades. So you probably won't hear anybody say their apocalypse tool is going to be a multi-tool, bro. That's not. It's going to be everybody's going to be a fixed blade.
Some big chopper,
because it's super durable. It's whatever. I'm like, no, I can make all the fixed blades I need if I have the tools I need to make.
I love that.
Fire a forge or whatever.
I love that. Did you bring a multi-tool that kind of personifies that, or?
Yeah.
So.
It's usually what's on me. It's this.
Perfect.
This is the toughest, and I'm without a doubt a multi-tool consumer. So I've probably broken. I've got a bag over there with probably 20 broken multi-tools in it. That I generally, because I'm welding, machining, everything. I use them. So they're ground, they're beat up, they're pry bars, they're hammers. But the Gerber center drive, that is. And my main reason for carrying that is it's got one of the best screwdrivers in a multi-tool.
Yeah, agreed.
Right.
That is the best screwdriver in a multi-tool.
Correct. It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But it still lives. Other than the carbide jaws don't handle much cutting.
Yeah.
The cutters, but the rest of this thing, I'm on 5 years on one tool, which is for me unbelievable because I literally consume a tool a year.
I was gonna say that's a testament because you
5 years of this thing
up.
being a hammer and everything. The blades are scrapers or chisels or something else, they're never using a knife because I've always got knives on me. And I wish they wouldn't load it up. This, with these other things that I never use, but that stupid pry bar on this thing is phenomenal. It's and it's tough as nails. It just, I don't use anything else. The files are never usually very good or anything, but
it's amazing.
But that tool has survived 5 years of me. I don't own anything that survives 5 years of me
right.
using it EDC. So that, without a doubt, if I could only own one knife, it would be, a multi-tool.
Yeah.
And as I've been through all the brands and almost every model of every brand, and that's the one that survived everything I do every day.
Incredible.
Not my favorite multi-tool though. That's the goofy part.
Oh, interesting. Okay, okay.
When you get to that category,
I was gonna say we're gonna get into multi-tools. So now I'm really intrigued on how that's gonna play out. But what I love about your apocalypse knife answer is it's not something to just get by. It's something to like rebuild with.
Yeah.
I really like that. Right? Like, yeah.
I can make a fixed blade knife. I can make a chopper. I can make those things from scrap you can scavenge together, right? And so I can't make a multi-tool, not from scratch, scavenging stuff together. And I can carry more stuff on me with a multi-tool than I can anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like you have a compact toolbox effectively.
Correct. I think I bought one of the first commercially available Leathermans and have had a multi-tool on my side every day since. Yeah. So as long as Leatherman, as that concept, and I've broken probably 100 Leathermans,
of course,
and consumed them,
Yeah.
But great tools. But from day one, that was my, when that multi-tool first really came about, I've always carried.
Yeah.
And you won't find me without one. It's a weird thing, unless I'm on an airplane and I can't have one.
Right. I don't think it's weird.
It'll be in my check bag, I promise you.
Right, exactly.
I will not go.
You're like, I'm checking a bag because I have to have a multi-tool.
I grab my bag out of the carry, so the first thing I do is I throw my kit back up, knives, tools, tape measure, lights, everything goes back on me.
I love it. I love it. We at the end of this, we might have to grab a pocket check because your carry is very impressive, and you carry a lot, but you use it all. Yeah. Like that's the thing that I really appreciate about your carry. And again, like I've said before many times on this channel, like if you carry a lot and you don't use it all, that's fine. Do your thing, have fun, right? But I've always been so impressed with your carry because it just seems like this perfect cross section of you carry a lot, right? But you use all of it as well. Yeah. And you also carry things you enjoy, which I love. And you think about these things so much that like I feel like the things you carry are so intentional, right? Like the Gerber, right? Yeah. You're like, this is lasting me 5 years, so this would be my apocalypse tool because X, Y, Z, and you have all these years of testing and beating consuming stuff, right? Like yeah.
And it's so habitual for me that if I'm missing one thing, like I took some tools off my left side just so it wouldn't mess up your mic. And it's weirding me out right now because I'm missing some tools off my left side right now.
Right. Like the weight's not there. You're like,
I can feel that they're missing, and it's just it freaks me out. So.
There's a disturbance in the force. I love it. Well, I mean, that's I like I said, I really love the multi-tool as the apocalypse knife answer, right? And I think that what it highlights, and this is something that we've touched on before, is like on the channel. I think what it highlights is the most important thing that you can have is like your brain and your experiences and knowing how to do things and how the world works. And right. So then the next thing would be a way to manipulate that. Right. And that's such a great way to do it.
This skills or talent or just willingness, drive to do something is worth more than the tools you'd use, sometimes, because you can get by somehow almost always,
Yeah.
A stick and a rock can be a tool in the right environment,
Yeah, with the right skills.
Correct.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
But the skills are less important than just the doing. The skills come from doing, obviously.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Just do it.
No, I like that. I like that. Just do that. Just do it. Yeah.
And the best way to learn how to do it, I learned growing up a hillbilly, is to use the wrong tools. Right.
100%.
You can go buy the perfect. I buy what I want now instead of what I need. But back then it was get it done with what you could.
Yeah, things.
Everything's a hammer.
Yeah, as I say, as a kid, the things that I was able to accomplish, like on the different ranches and stuff that I worked on, with a crescent wrench, a screwdriver, and a knife. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, we can get the truck running again. You know, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's, so many people get through the day cutting, opening packages, cutting string, doing whatever they do through the day with their keys.
Yep.
So, I mean, I would say probably the most carried and most used EDC knife is actually a key. When I watch people who are knife guys don't open the packet, they're enthusiasts or collectors, will actually open up their knife box from Amazon or Smoky Mountain or wherever they order from with a key instead of actually just it's
well, because you don't want to get the knife edge dirty with the tape, right? Like,
it seems a little weird to me, but it's very common. I've watched other people get through their entire life using knives as keys, and so it's like it's with them all the time. It's what they need. So, it might be the most used EDC knife is actually your house key or your car key.
And I actually think, like if you're talking like sample size across the world, right? Like, you're probably correct on that. 100%.
That and lots of crazy jurisdictions where you can't carry knives. Or
exactly. Which force you to, exactly. Or like that like.
Would never live there myself, but
Yeah, same. Yeah. Or like, knives are weapons, and it's like a Swiss Army knife is not a weapon. Sorry.
So it's a rock or that garbage can or whatever.
Exactly. 100%. So with this, with this unique background, I have to ask, like, so we know your apocalypse tool, right? What's your plan, right? Like things go south, right? Like society's done, right? Like for whatever reason it is. You're a lucky survivor, right? What's the plan? Like,
I'm a little sick and then I look forward to it.
Yeah.
But I'm by no means a prepper or anything else, but I grew up that way. And it was a simpler life. It's very tough. There's absolutely no question about it.
Hard work
and so
every day.
The first part is there probably isn't a good plan because you don't know what scenario. If it ever happens, you wouldn't know. I mean, we're filming this. Think of the guys in California that are stuck and they get a canyon, rocks fall down a canyon, cars all back up, evacuating, and then you're stuck.
Yep.
What's your plan? And you can improvise, which is be lucky or improvise or both. It's going to be a combination of both to survive.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But know how to make fire, unless you're in California. know how to make fire. Know how to get food. Know how to get water. Shelter's less important unless you're in a desert or in the deep snow.
Yeah, to say in the middle of winter, deep snow. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And be in shape enough to survive. So that's the biggest thing. I'm not in shape by any means, but if you're in really the biggest plan, be able to walk 20 miles.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's a big thing
because the people that it's like your survival plan's not going to work because you need your medication and your that's part of its luck, part of it's being prepared that way.
Yeah. No, I like the physical fitness side of it. And of course, right, like there's swaths of people with different, considerations in their life, but generally, right? Like if you're just a general able-bodied person, right? I would agree completely with you on that.
And
exactly. There's two types of fitness, right?
Like
you have a physical fitness that's like you said, can you walk 20 miles with 30, 40 pounds on your back, right? 50 pounds on your back, right? And not be dead at the end of the day, right? And then also, like, have you sharpened this tool, right? The tool that's probably going to be the most useful when that happens.
I'm going to fix or procure something so I don't have to walk the 20 miles.
Exactly.
I'm going to drive probably with the AC on somehow.
I was going to say, I believe that. Like for your skill set, I can see you just being like, okay, like an EAP, whatever, right? Went off, whatever. And you're just like going through the neighborhood as people have left and you're gathering things and you're just rolling out with like an RV, all your stuff and AC. Like, I believe it.
I prep a little bit for, because I grew up early enough. I started driving when there was gas shortages. Yeah. So I have 2 vehicles that I've converted to propane so that I can run, and they're, one of them's a Suzuki Samurai. It'll climb up the side of a mountain if it has to. Or,
I'm a geo-tracker man.
Okay.
Tracker. It's the budget version of the Samurai.
But I can, it'll go anywhere. It runs on nothing, and I feed it propane, and so I can run it off of barbecue where everybody else is scrambling for gas when that shortage hits. Who knows what happens. Back then, it was some stuff in Iran and the Middle East that drove. We run so lean, and not just the U.S. but the whole world runs so lean in its energy supply that for me, I'm like got something I can feed something else if I have to. I've got an alternative, so.
Yep, 100%. I've always I don't know if you ever went down this rabbit hole, but I've always I read an article in Mother Earth News a million years ago, and it was how to turn chicken poop into fuel.
Yeah.
Basically, like, and you get like an old water heater, and you have a compression system. It turns it to a gas, and it's very similar to a propane conversion, right? And you used to be able to buy these like fittings for your carburetor, and you just screw that in, and then it goes, right? That and wood fire, like a wood-fired engine. Both of those have always intrigued me. Never got around to it, but yeah.
Gasification process to create and capture it somehow. So it'd be a trick, and practically speaking, none of us would be able to, or very, very few of us would ever understand enough science and physics and have the facilities to actually, recreate even a slightly modern society. So it's very unlikely that it'll happen, but you look at what's happening in some countries today, or even, when you might be a temporary apocalypse when the floods or fires or whatever hit.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said, I mean, California, right? They're going through it for sure right now, and that's a very, I mean, again, it's a very apocalyptic scenario, right? Like everything's gone, you need to get out. What's your plan, et cetera, et cetera.
Be mentally prepared, physically prepared, and then have some tools.
Yep. I love that. Cool, multi-tool. I love it.
We're all multi-tools, right?
So. Yeah, right, exactly. And then very easily that walks us into the multi-tool category, right? So we've talked about multi-tool in like an apocalypse scenario, right? Yeah. Where you've got all this raw material that now you have access to basically whatever you want as long as somebody's not protecting it. Yeah. And you need that multi-tool to be able to take things apart, put things together, whatever it is, right? And it's something you can always have. So even if you had to drop your bag running from cannibals, you at least have the multi-tool, right? So awesome for apocalypse standard, right? But now multi-tool in general, you had mentioned the one on your hip's not your favorite.
No.
And so what is your favorite multi-tool?
Kershaw A100.
Okay. Do you have one here?
Hasn't been made for years.
Yeah. I know the name, but I don't remember the knife.
So this was a locking, and so this is the last one I've been through dozens of these, if not. I have a bag full of parts over there that the same jaw breaks every time when I break them. But I weld and fabricate and stuff like that all the time. So it's a locking multi-tool.
Cool.
So if you've ever used one, they have some design issues. They don't fold, so that's the full length.
Yeah.
And so they're tricky to wear where they don't get you into goodies when you bend over or something.
Right.
They tend to pinch the ever-living crap out of your palms because when they snap, they're a locking pliers. So when they lock close, if your skin's in there, they lock close on your skin.
Yeah, they've got it.
They were one of the first external blade multi-tools.
Okay, cool.
Right?
Yeah.
One of the might be the first.
Yeah.
Because it didn't fold up, so you didn't have to hide that.
Right, you didn't have to hide it. Because even the first Leathermans you had to open it up to get to the tools.
They're also fully, now it takes another plier or a wrench because they're not hexes, but you can fully disassemble and rebuild them. So I bought and rebuilt these. Now, back in the day when they were in production, I could send it back to Kershaw. Right, of course. But even then, I would keep brokens as spares and basically swap parts out.
Cool.
And so you could put your own blades, and I've done that. Made my own blades to go inside. This is an unmolested, I think almost brand new that I've been saving.
Cool.
But it's the fact that it locks, and it's an adjustable locking plier, so you can lock down and so mine were typically consumed welding or car projects. I've literally driven a car with a Kershaw A100 as the steering wheel.
As the steering wheel.
Absolutely no doubt. My wife can attest to some of my car projects don't always work really well. So there's always some surprises in them. So I drove a Chevelle I built home one day with the cheap hub on an aftermarket steering wheel, the hub stripped out. Yeah. And you can't steer.
Yeah, you can't steer. Yeah.
And so I was with a A100, was able to take the steering wheel, pull the steering wheel with that, which was
that's incredible.
Required some stuff.
That required some ingenuity.
And then literally clamp that to the steering shaft and drive home with using a multi-tool. And you could probably pull it off with a non-locking plier, but dang, the locking plier sure made it a little.
Is really nice. Is really nice. Okay,
so but it's a welding clamp all the time. It's man, I wish somebody. I have used Leatherman crunches. I don't know if that's still in production.
But that one might. If it's not, it just went out of production. Because I know recently they were. Yeah.
And it was much more compact because it folds up, but it was a two-hander to use the plier, because you had to like assemble it when it came out. Yep. But it was my dress multi-tool for you. So
I love it. That's your going to church multi-tool.
Yeah, exactly. But because of the way it went together, I broke those like a crunch for me would last 6 months at the most.
Whoa.
But
Okay,
again,
yeah.
I'm abusing it, so it's not a fault of these.
No, yeah,
any
yeah,
of
yeah,
these
for
tools
sure.
and knives and things. This is not the fault of the tools. This is
For
me
sure.
literally using them well beyond their means.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're probably one of very few people on earth that's blowing through a crunch in 6 months. You know what I mean?
I baton with, I literally used, the sheep's foot on these things and ground a chisel on the end of them and pounded them through on a slip joint and used them to chisel with. That's not.
Well, you're pounding the right direction, so.
I probably I don't have an EDC that hasn't batoned even a little keychain knife that I've actually used something else to drive it through something. It's gonna get abused, and so they will get broken, whatever. So no fault of the Leathermans that, which is, be honest with you, even though I don't like this center drive as much, I love the screwdriver.
Yeah.
I don't like this center drive as much.
Yeah.
It has lived through everything.
Yeah.
This one's been rebuilt a couple of times.
Cool.
But 5 years on my side is unheard of.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Again, if you're blowing through crunches in 6 months, exactly, that makes a lot of sense.
The A100s were expensive back in the day. I was a broke mechanic.
Yeah.
When that, it was maybe towards the end of my wrenching career, but when those first came out, and I was going through an A100 probably every 3 to 6 months, and they were $100 tools back then. That was an expensive.
Yeah,
tool
that was.
back
I mean,
then.
that was a lot. Yeah. Yeah.
So I pick them up when I see them show up on eBay, or I find when it's in good shape, and so I've got a couple of used ones, and I think that's an unmolested one in there. But,
That's amazing.
But,
so you point out some issues with the use of it, but the reason that you would call that your favorite is because locking.
Yeah.
Form factor and locking. That's the thing that gets you for it.
Yeah, the locking plier aspect. It's a third hand.
Yeah.
I mean, and so many times I don't know if it saved my life, but I had an A100, and I used to be kind of nuts. I carried both a Leatherman and an A100 on me because it gave me two. I could run.
Yeah, exactly.
Nut and bolt with it, right?
Yep.
But I was snowmobiling out in the middle of nowhere in Idaho. I was by myself, way further back than I ever should have been. I just got carried away one night, and so I turned around when it got dark. I left at 8 o'clock in the morning, turned around when it got dark.
Yeah.
In Bear Lake area in Idaho, and I was way too far away to be that late and by myself, and snowmobile broke, and it exhaust pipe came on the little springs that retain the whole exhaust system on them to the head. Well, the exhaust pipe came off, or that spring broke. Yeah. And you can't run without it because it literally will suffocate itself. Yep. It's sucking in its own exhaust.
Exactly.
And the other thing is it'll just melt your ignition system over, almost instantly.
Exactly. Yeah, you toast.
Yeah. So it came off because I hit a tree, but
normal stuff to do on a sled.
locking multi-tool. I literally clamped the pipe to something to get it to halfway connect and drove myself home.
That's incredible.
And it was, and I got home at probably 3 a.m. or something like that.
Yeah, of course.
My wife scared to death.
I was going to say, was anybody waiting for you? Was
it was very irresponsible of me, but again, I don't know if I maybe I would have lived, but I was in multiple feet of snow, miles and miles and miles.
That's some barren country out that way.
It would have been tough if nothing else. I was equipped, but it still would have been a really tough time. Yeah. And, for survival tools, we skipped over. If I did have to choose one knife, this is the Scorpion lock. Yeah. As an all-around. I don't EDC it because it's kind of heavy, and I'm carrying so much other stuff. But as a one-hand opening, really tough. Everything's out. The entire lock mechanism, everything's on the outside, so it's super easy to clean. And it's a robust knife. It is. They're not super expensive.
Is that a cold steel one or a Demco one?
Cold steel.
Cold steel. Yeah. It has Demco done anything directly?
I haven't seen the Scorpion in.
I don't think he has. Yeah. But Demco came up with the Scorpion.
But
with cold steel.
I've carried lockbacks and other stuff. That's another really robust. And Demco's, Andrew makes some incredible locking mechanisms.
Incredible locking.
Super tough stuff. But this of what he does is my favorite simply because it's the most serviceable. Because everything's on the outside. You can see, even on you've probably had a lockback where some junk has fallen in. You've had it, whatever, and you go to lock it out and it won't lock out because it's literally got some stuff inside there or whatever.
Yeah, with that, like you said, everything is right there on the front end.
Super easy to clean, and it's really a tough, would I baton with this? Yes, and I've broken one of these. So this is my second one because I've used it you know,
Inappropriately,
inappropriately,
appropriately inappropriate.
but it's easy to see that you know, I know it's engaged. I've got my hand over that. My fist is literally holding it closed.
Yeah, your hand is part of the locking
Correct.
mechanism.
It's part of the locking mechanism. So that's one of my favorites. If I had to choose a survival knife,
Yeah,
it still wouldn't be a fixed blade because I'm just going to make that.
I love that.
It would, if it was a folding survival. I think that right now is still my favorite.
Would be the one.
You know, even though I've broken one already, but
yeah,
you know.
but
But
also
again,
like if you,
totally abusing it when I broke it. So.
yeah, and also like if you were in a situation where you're like, this is what all I have, right? You'd probably have a measure of restraint on what you were doing with it, right? Like,
yeah, and you also, if you're in a survival situation, you're going to do less stupid stuff, or you should be, because
exactly, because
a little cut on your hand can kill you when you're in, you know, when you're in that environment. So
resources are very limited, right? Yeah. I love to see the Scorpion lock because I feel like not enough people talk about it.
No.
And they're a really great knives. What is it? The 8015, I think is the yeah. I love that knife. Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a,
it really is.
You know, it's a conversation starter, but it's a very practical, you know. If you'll carry, for me, I'm carrying so much other stuff that I probably won't EDC it. So in practical things, I've got one in my, so it's I guess my third one, because I've got one in my bug out bag, my fantasy bag.
Cool. Yeah, your fantasy bag.
I hope to never use, you know.
I love it.
But there's one in there, and if I was running from zombies, that would be the first thing that would get slipped out of the bag onto my hip, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But in multi-tools, and I've owned, there probably isn't a multi-tool that I haven't broken.
Yeah.
You know, from using.
Yeah.
Other than the real small ones, I don't, because I get, you know, and that's the same thing. I think I've owned one Swiss Army knife, and I'm embarrassed by that my entire life.
You're embarrassed by the fact that you did own one, or that you've only owned
that
one?
I've only owned one.
Oh, okay.
It's just weird to me that because it has everything, but they're a little too small for how I use stuff. They're great tools, and I highly recommend them all day long, you know, to people. But if you're gonna abuse them like I'm going to, it's not quite there. You know?
Yeah, like I see you with the Swiss Army knife, like, right, because you know I love the Victorinox Compact, right?
Correct.
And that gets me through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, definitely like the pry feature on that, right?
Yeah.
It'll pry.
Yeah.
But you have to, you know, you kind of pinch it by the pry bar, especially if you're really on it, and you really got to pay attention to what you're doing and let off at the right time.
If it's in my pocket when I'm hammering something on a car, or building a trailer, or doing whatever I'm doing, fabricating something, or just making prototype, it's going to get used.
Yep.
And it's going to get used probably beyond its limits, or beyond its designed intent.
Right.
And so for me, I never warranted a single knife, because I know what I'm doing, you know.
Yeah, so you're just like, this one's on me.
I've called companies up, hey, can you send me a replacement blade? But you know, but even then, I want to pay for it, because I know what I did was well beyond the engineers and designers' intent for that thing. You know?
I love that. And this is, man, yeah, I love hearing it, because I know that you've got all this stuff, and you use all this stuff, and you're using it constantly in your work, and you work at home. But I had no idea that you were blowing through stuff so much because of how much you're using it. Yeah. And I think that brings up an interesting point with multi-tools is, you know, a lot of times, you know, I feature multi-tools on the channel. I talk about multi-tools. I love multi-tools, right? I carry a couple tools in my pocket as well. Similar things, right? Like I feel like I'm always working on something weird that it's just like, it'll be really useful if I have a weird thing that will help me with this weird thing, right? But I get a lot of feedback, and people are like, just get the right tool, you know? And it's like, yeah, sure. If I'm at my workshop or whatever. But it sounds like you're using your multi-tools and stuff, I mean, daily, maybe even when you're in your shop.
This morning.
So why are you choosing your multi-tool over the right tool, right? Is it just a matter of, it's on me, it's convenient, let's just get it done? Or
that, and you know, they're not the wrong tool.
I love that.
I would argue that there is no wrong tool. There's good, better, best, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I've used some terrible, you know, really terrible choices for the tool to get the job done. But if it works, it was the right tool. You know, if it gets the job done without damage and stuff. Now I was a shop foreman at a marina, at a boat shop, you know, and so I would adamant the guys had to use good quality tools, because you could, you know, think of running a screw into, you know, into the side of a boat or something, and you slip one time because your screwdriver's dull, or you use a poor quality screwdriver and you scratch down the side of it. Well, you know, a $30 job turns into a $10,000 repair or something, because you know, made a poor choice when you did that thing. So it's important to use good quality stuff, you know. But yeah, I'll use a knife as a hammer all day long. I've cut trees down with folding slip joints.
Oh, jeez.
Because to prove that you could.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but
Not necessarily out of
was
necessity.
it
but
good
just
for the
to
knife? Heck no, the knife was done. A pivot
Yeah.
was just, especially old school where you
Oh,
can't
yeah.
tune the pivot without
It's gone. Yeah.
repressing it.
Yeah.
But it's you can make that tool, get it done. But
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
but
So
it's taught me a lot over the years. I do it to learn too, as I'm also, it's part of my job to find the limits of different attachment methods and different materials, and I really kind of have this knack or understanding now by doing it wrong. I understand where things are going to fail, or have a good idea what how hard you can push things. Everything's got a failure limit somewhere,
of course.
and so for me it's educational for me also. It's not always practical. I'm doing it because I'm learning something from it too. So
and this is something that I was going to say is I mean, your interest, I mean, for your whole life, your interest of taking things apart, knowing how they work, right? Like, destroying something really does teach you something. You know what I mean? Like, I've blown up a couple motors in my day, not intentionally, right? Just old projects, oil pumps go out, whatever, unknown to me. But then taking those engines apart and looking at what went wrong, right? And like seeing a hole through the head, and like you really do learn something special by breaking something, right? And like, again, for your job, like you could be intentionally breaking things, right? Where is this? You know what I mean? Like,
you've seen our tests. We literally break things all day, every day, on intentionally wear them out, cut them, break them, everything, because to optimize. And I don't say that we build the most durable or the longest lasting or the highest, whatever of our products, but we aim for the highest value. You're going to get the most out of our product, and that's what we shoot for. So part of that simplifying our products. I want the stuff to be basic enough that fewest parts that can be in there, that so that we can basically run this thing, because everything's expensive now. If you spend $50 on a sharpener, I want that sharpener to get its $50 out, and I still value it's your time, right? I don't see it as money. I see it as your time. You spent your time to buy our time, and so let's make sure you damn well get the value out of what we gave you. So we'll use a plastic part instead of a metal part, but we test that plastic part and find its modes of failure, and we run things, everything we do, we try and break it and find its limit,
I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something that has been true at Worksharp since the beginning, as far as I know from the history, but especially since I've been using Worksharp products, right? And working with you guys and seeing your internal processes and talking with you and everybody else here on the team, it's such a real thing at Worksharp that, like, you're just not going to find a better bang for your buck. In my opinion, you're just not going to find a better bang for your buck. And a lot of it has to do with this mentality, this philosophy, right? That you inject into the things that you're designing for people. And I've never heard it said that way, where things are expensive, right? Especially now. And it's not like you don't want to waste people's time, right? And
it's really time. Money is really time.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's, as you get older, you realize how much more valuable that is, and so it's like, it's not that it's a $50 or $100 or $200 purchase, even in knives. It's time. It's how many hours did you have to work to earn to really earn the disposable income to go purchase that thing. And sometimes, for some people, it may be a week or two that they had earned to go purchase your knife. Maybe it's longer than that. Maybe it's a month. If they really like nice knives, maybe they spend a year earning that knife. That knife better deliver whatever it's supposed to deliver. Sometimes it's just jewelry.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. It should be the best jewelry it is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
But if it's jobs to cut stuff, it should cut stuff, and really, when you're done, I want you to feel like you've earned, I want you to feel like it performed beyond what you expected. When I buy, if I buy a tool or a knife where I expect it to be something I'm actually going to use, I always buy at least two. Right when I buy them at the store.
Yeah.
With the intention of breaking the first one.
Okay.
Because then I know what the limits are.
Because then you're like,
this
I
is
know
my
exactly
personal
where to
stuff.
take that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I bought a new Gerber tools a couple of years ago, and I bought 4 of them. Because I'm like, okay, this is a pretty hard use multi-tool. I'm going to run this thing. And so I bought one. Literally, I took it out and broke it. first thing out of the box is I'm going to depend on this thing. I'm going to be on the side of a road somewhere. I'm going to be helping somebody with something. I'm going to need this tool. So I want to know how hard can I hammer with it? How hard can I use the plier? How hard can I bend? And so I broke the first one intentionally to find out what the limit was, and it was pretty dang high. It hurt me because I had so much force into it when I was finally able to break it. It took a lot, and so now I've got a tool that I trust, and so there's one of those in every one of my vehicles because now I know if I'm stuck on the side of the road or helping somebody else that's stuck on the side of the road, I know how hard I can push that tool before it lets me down. And the knife industry in general, especially with modern designs and modern steels. I haven't bought a bad knife or a bad tool in many years. They just work.
Exactly.
A lot of design effort. There's some that are not great for this application, but I haven't been surprised by poor. Very rarely in this industry. This industry puts a lot of effort into doing the right thing.
Yeah, I would agree completely with that. Yeah. I mean, once you get out of like that gas station knife category, right, and into like a name you can recognize, I completely agree with you. Yeah.
Even gas station knives are getting to be good.
They're not bad. Yeah. To be honest, the one thing that I hate about most gas station knives right now is that they're all assisted. And you're a Canadian fan, so I know you like assisted. But it just for whatever reason, it just bothers me that they're all assisted. And I don't know.
I don't carry anything assisted anymore that I can think of. I have a leak, but assisteds don't, because bearings and the technology is just developed far enough that the assisted is not. It's still fun, kind of, but I would much rather be able to open and close a knife one-handed, with the least amount of force needed to close it, and overcoming that spring is.
Because you can close an assisted knife. Most assisted knives one-handed.
By the way, most Canadians I carry aren't assisted.
I love it.
But it back before really good pivot technology, really good tolerance, it was really good manufacturing, processes. It was really hard to make a knife. When the first flipping knives first came out, you opened a flipping knife with a lot of wrist motion, right?
Exactly.
And I pick them like I've carried Skylines for as long as Skylines have been.
Oh yeah, Skyline, that's classic.
I've owned dozens. I think I have every form of Skyline ever made, probably in multiples.
Yeah.
Like a Skyline fixed blade. That's kind of a rare one, right? But
that's so
awesome. Because my
it.
hand was basically so familiar with that blade shape that the Skyline fixed blade was a no-brainer to me.
Yeah.
But that's another tool you can just run the crap out of that thing, and it just works. But when you take one of the older Skylines, I go pull one out and go run it, and it's like, wow, I have to. It's alarming to me how much motion I have to put into. And then they launched I think it's exclusive for one of the stores, but they launched a mini Skyline that's ball bearinged.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
it's different.
It's a D2 import knife instead of made in USA, but it's like, that's a different experience of a Skyline. Just having and then they did an XL Skyline. It was heavy enough to overcome the washer friction.
I actually really like the XL. I mean, I like Skyline, but I love the XL a lot. Yeah, that one in particular.
But technology has come along so far that assisted. It's still cool. It's still fun. So I'm nothing against something that's fun. But not a necessity anymore. Knives are faster in bearings and are really, really well machined, well made bushings.
Yep.
You can make knives faster. It's like autos. I own probably 50 autos, but it's a novel. For most part, it's almost a novelty at this point.
It's more the fun factor than like, I want something that I need to open fast, right?
Correct. But Ken was so brilliant, and one of the things that people don't realize, his mechanism and his legal knowledge is phenomenal. So what was amazing about the first speed safe is that technology was essentially it met the experience of a switchblade without legally being a switchblade.
Yep, exactly. And I think that's especially if you weren't around for knives at that time period, or if you just like didn't know about knives at that time period, right? Like either way, I think people like forget or have forgotten, culturally we've forgotten how important that assisted knife was because of that that sensation of like, that's an auto, right?
Like it's an auto, but you weren't legally in auto because you weren't pushing a button, you were pushing the blade. It was bias closed. It met,
Yep.
Ken's understanding of the law was so good. And he didn't know this. He had to go read, I know the story.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
He
yeah.
had to go research it and learn it, but he's
Yeah.
such a smart guy and such a talented guy that he found a way around all the lawyers that write all these laws, and to create quite, that's if you look at what kind of made modern knives that where the industry is today. He played a big, there's Walker, there's a whole bunch of guys that played a huge.
There were, yeah, but
huge
I
role in
agree.
that
I think
stuff,
Ken is foundational into the fact that you can pick up almost any knife,
Correct.
and you're going to get a really smooth action. When I first started working with knives on camera, I had so many bad flipper knives and that I would flip my wrist, and I was always told, like, hey, don't do that, it makes the knife look bad. And I'm like, it's just muscle memory because I've never had one that actually opens well. So
but it's it's hard to find a knife today that doesn't run well. I mean, that's the
Agreed.
thing that's it's some of the walk and talk even on slip joints and stuff today is almost so good. It's like, I'm a Lion Steel fan. I've got several, and it's like
they do an amazing
the half stop on there, and the integral aluminum frame slip joints where the spring is. I mean, as an engineer, that just for me is, you don't use aluminum as a spring. These guys figured out how to use not just a spring, it's a freaking great spring. I mean, they did a phenomenal job on that. So I'll buy knives and I carry them just because that's just from a technology standpoint. If you look at the level of machining that they had to do to shape the spring to get it, because aluminum's not a good spring material at all.
No, it's not at all.
So, and so I bought two when I think it was a Thrill or whatever the first one I saw. It was an integral aluminum. I ran that thing. I bought two. I ran one to see if I could make it. So I actually built a machine just out of my own edification, just to teach myself. I was like,
I love that.
The aluminum should not have enough fatigue resistance to survive this thing, or it does, but I was like, I looked at the geometry, I was like, you guys really push this thing, and I ran it. I never did break that thing. It just kept running.
Cool. That's so cool.
That's what's going into knives now. So that's the fun part. There's that much going into knives. There should be that, and that's one of my experience when getting into sharpening knives. What I saw, there was not that, with one exception, there wasn't that much research going into sharpeners. Right. It was fun to see knives. Knives are a really simple thing. There's a lot of parts in a knife, but
of course,
knives are
the concept.
Really simple. And there was so much engineering and thought and design going into them, and there wasn't in sharpeners. That's why I took on the challenge of knife sharpeners. I've been a knife sharpener my whole life, for over 50 years. But
since you were 4.
but to see what the industry was doing in knives and sharpeners were not catching on, especially Ken, because he's making crazy shapes. It just made it really fun, I'll call it, to sharpen.
Yeah, fun challenge.
I don't always use that word.
I love it. I feel like your definition of fun might be a little different than normal person's definition of fun. In the best way possible. All right, so aside from your first knife, which kind of lines up with like a lot of people's first knife, even though a lot of your first knife experiences are definitely different in such a wonderful way, right? Each of the choices that you've had up to this point have really surprised me, and I love it. I absolutely love it. So when it comes to the next category, which is most important knife, you mentioned at the beginning you're not really a sentimental guy, and you're such a consumer, such a user. But I also love this idea that you buy multiples just out of your own curiosity to see limits on things. So when you picked, or when you thought of that category, what knife was it or knives that came to mind?
So it was a really easy answer.
Okay.
In the way I think.
Okay. Yeah.
My most important knife is the one I'm wearing.
There you go. Okay.
There's zero question about that, because I own lots of knives that I do treasure. I've got some. We've talked about Ken Onion. I've got some Ken originals or his mid-techs, or that Ken put his love into and had his hands on, and Ken tuned it just for me. And it's like, those knives are important to me. But practically speaking, when it's sitting at home in a dresser or in a box, the most important thing to me right now is the knife that's in my pocket.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. So today, what knife is in your pocket today?
A Day Shift.
Nice.
So, you've seen that one. That's a drop point.
Yeah.
You know.
And we're allowed to show this off?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So if you guys don't know, Worksharp's been doing some dabbling, and Dan has been at the forefront of said dabbling. I didn't even know if we'd be able to show any of this, so I'm really excited about this. Can you walk us through the Day Shift just a little bit? Tell us about it. So it's the knife in your pocket, but also there's so much with because I've been on the backside of seeing what you guys have been cooking up for like the last year or more, and there's so much thought that has gone into this. And so, yeah, so walk us through this just a little bit.
I've designed and built tons of knives in the past, mostly fixed blade stuff. So Day Shift is really my first folder and the first time I'm trying to commercialize or, let other people use some of my knives.
Yeah.
And so the idea is something that I can carry. I called it EDW.
Okay.
Everyday work.
Love it.
So I want something that I can pull out, and so I literally kept a log. I carry a notebook just like you and a bunch of Ben and these guys have talked about, it's a big part of my EDC. And so I kept a log every day what I used a knife for. And I said, and I did this for a year and a half prior to even starting I wanted to have all the data before I even started this concept of this knife. And so I just said, what is in my use as a fairly heavy knife user, what do I use a knife for every day? And I expected it to be kind of 50% cool stuff, gasket scraping, tearing an engine down, doing stuff like that. And then I had a few other people do the same thing for me, maybe for only a week or days at a time because it was a lot to do. But I had other people do it, and me as a super heavy, almost abusive knife user, and the casual EDCer, our first thing we used it for was the same. It was opening boxes. So its first job had to be, it's got to be really good at being in your pocket. It's got to be easy to carry. It's got to be really good at being in your pocket, easy to get out, deploy, cut some tape on a box and put it back in your pocket, right? It's going to do that job even as a hard knife user who's using it for all sorts of other stuff.
Right.
That's still the number one use. That's
number one because
and by wide margin too.
Yeah, that's the number one use that most people are using the knives for on the daily, right?
So cutting boxes, cutting plastic ties, opening up packages, kind of that cutting the packaging, packing, or tying material. So rope, ties, cardboard, tape. Gummy tape was one of the worst, and so it was weird to go after a design saying, okay, how do I make a knife that can survive packing tape and not have to be cleaned often to be able to get in there? So part of this knife design is to be able to handle that and be able to be clean. The other one was food. I don't cut. I know where this has been and what it gets used for. This has got motor oils and
my pocket knives are almost never
garden dirt, and I've probably cut an animal apart with another. It's done all sorts of stuff, so it doesn't go through my apple and cut my apple. But I found that the number two usage for the average EDCer was food.
That's really interesting.
The knife in their pocket does that. So I was like, well, I can't solve both. I'm a little bit of a germaphobe, so I'm like, so I wanted a knife to be super, super easy to service. Right? I wanted a drop shut, ball bearing, super smooth running knife, but be able to cut an apple with it, and then later go castrate a sheep if you had to, or whatever. Whatever crazy things
whatever the crazy thing is you're doing,
but feel comfortable to go back and cut an apple. So you got to be able to, you got to be able to clean the thing, right? So I want a knife that come apart really easy. So this is a single screw knife. You take this out. It's an integral, so there's not a bunch of parts in this thing holding it together. So there's not a bunch of nooks and crannies that hold crud, right? The handle is one piece. I don't, my other philosophy is kind of keep it simple or minimize the amount of material that's in some of the amount of parts, because that makes it more robust, makes it easier to manufacture. Well, not cheaper, but easier to manufacture.
Less moving parts, but exactly.
And so that's kind of the principle of this, was that also helped with the hygiene, the cleaning, the maintenance of it. So it takes one screw to pull it apart. The bearings and pivots come on from the outside. And so it's super easy if you clean it. Button locks can be really finicky. I wanted a button lock because it's super fidgety, right? But the same concept here was basically be able to make this knife go through my everyday and survive all that stuff. One of the hard use applications that I have to go through is not the same thing, but I wanted a knife that could do this. So when I change oils on vehicles, I always poke a hole in the oil filter and collect the oil from the filter to kind of analyze. I'm going to look for metal particles there. Also, it keeps you, when you're draining the filter, from dumping oil all over yourself.
Exactly.
Right?
So I do a similar thing. I'll dump it, and then I'll just run a magnet through to check.
So I want a knife that's strong enough to literally poke through the bottom of an oil filter, and then but it's gonna get oil in it, engine oil in it when it does that, and then next week I won't, but other people are going to cut an apple with that. So I want to be able to clean it in between those two operations.
Cool.
And so maintenance was a big thing for me. I also want you to use this knife. by use, I mean abuse it.
Yeah.
What would be considered abuse, right?
Yeah.
And so if you break the blade, it's one screw.
Yep.
Call us up, we send you a blade. You know, that type of a scenario. So we can basically swap parts out that way.
Yeah.
Same thing on the clip. There is 2 screws in it, so there's this screw in the clip, but it's a reversible and it has its own nut that seats in there. So there's no minimize the amount of threads, minimize the amount of interfaces that are in a knife. There's no barrel spacers. There's none of that.
Yeah.
So this knife was a bit of a passion for me. So it's an important knife to me because of my first folder. By the way, I'm not a genius. I literally ask a ton of questions. So I've interviewed Ken and you know, for years and years, you know, friends in the knife industry. I learn from them and then I just do stupid things over and over again until something works. And I don't mind pushing things too. So it's got weirdness. It's a magnesium.
Yeah, I was gonna say the material list.
Yeah.
So starting. Let's start with the handle since we're there.
Yeah.
So the handle, right?
Yeah, this is, you know, a magnesium, so super light, but
Yep.
also very stiff. I love structure, you know, basically high performance metals, and magnesium is, in my opinion, a very underutilized, but for a good reason. It's very reactive.
Very reactive,
Very
but they do
reactive.
use it to make aren't the blocks in F1 cars made of magnesium for weight savings?
Yeah, all sorts of them. So
Yeah.
the most common use, if you're a tool guy, that you use is cases on, you know, crankcases and you know, the premium, you know, worm drive saws for years were always magnesium cased.
My worm drive saw is magnesium.
Still-
Is it skill saw magnesium?
So still makes their crankcases. So if you know, think of a harsh environment, a chainsaw doesn't get, you know, in the way of what power tools go through. It doesn't get much more violent. You've got little explosions going off into it, you know, 18,000 times a minute, you know, and all sorts of fuels, oils, huge amount of impacts, rust, you know, so that those guys can make a crankcase in a chainsaw live out of magnesium. They now do, you know, connecting rods, and there's even a magnesium piston saw that's out there. And, you know,
Oh, that's cool. I've heard
magnesium burn. I mean,
Yeah.
right. So you can do all that. I can make a knife out of damn stuff. You know?
of that. Right.
So it's a bit of a challenge because it's actually not a knife material. It's been done once, I think, in the past, and it didn't go very far. But what it does is it's the stiffest material you can build with per pound. And so essentially I can make a very rigid but very light. This is barely over the weight if you know a bug out. So this is a full handled, full grip, full bladed knife, right? That's, you know, not dainty. I got fairly large hands and I can get a good grip on this thing, and it weighs just barely more than a bug out.
Yep.
And so it competes easily with all plastic knives in weight, but you don't have, it's such a rigid material, you don't feel that.
Yep.
Disadvantage is it's a brittle material. So I have to design around, like building a pivot in magnesium is a bit of a trick because pivot and stop pins, all this stuff, they all receive a lot of impact. And so you have to make those things much more robust to use this material because it's, you know, it has its disadvantage too. The biggest one, which is my favorite thing, is it's very reactive.
Yeah.
So by all means, not a saltwater.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you literally can just dip this knife in vinegar and it bubbles and produces gases like crazy and turns black, and it will just consume itself just in a mild acetic solution.
It'll eat itself in vinegar. Yeah.
But it patinas wonderfully in your pocket. It actually becomes you after carrying it for a while. It's just weird how it looks like titanium.
Yeah.
You know, as it starts to gray and patina, but of course it's way lighter.
Yeah.
And actually technically stiffer than even titanium is. So
awesome.
It's a fun,
well, yeah, you said per pound, right?
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
It's a fun material, but it's not, you know, you have some challenges in it. So we've been dealing with, right now we're only going to start selling them in Cerakote in a coated version just until people are going to get used to the idea of having a reactive material.
Yeah.
But I've carried wood, you know, we've all carried wood handled stuff and
Yeah.
it's no more reactive than I guess technically it's more reactive than a piece of wood, but
Right.
this will catch on fire, this will catch on fire, this will get damaged in water and, you know, acids, and this will, you know, they both will, but we're not used to it in a metal knife and an all metal.
Yeah, which makes because like you get an all metal knife,
correct.
and if it's in anything stainless, you're just like, oh, cool, like this doesn't do anything.
I hope it's something that goes well because it's a different experience. You pick this knife up and it's
oh yeah,
it's the first wow on this thing is just put it in your hand. You're going, whoa. most people are used to carrying. It's not a little knife. You carry that knife, you think this thing weighs like 4 or 5 ounces or 6 ounces. You know?
Yep.
And so when it comes in just barely over 2 ounces, it kind of freaks you out.
Yeah, no, man. Like I said, I have been so excited. Yeah. Like I said, I didn't know we get to talk about this, and I'm so excited that we get to talk about it here. But because the other thing is outside of the handle and the pivot, which we'll come back to the pivot because there's some interesting stuff with the pivot as well. But let's talk about the blade material and the grind that you chose. Yeah. Because you are so specific about materials and task, and I love the pairing. I love that you didn't just run to the hot steel that is the hotness right now. Right? You thought specifically about the design and exactly like what is the thing that's perfect for this, right?
So again, it's first job. So this is not the reverse tanto,
right?
The utility blade.
Yeah.
This is a drop point that I'm working on, but the kind of base blade in this thing is a reverse tanto. Super, super thin though. It's 5/1000 behind the edge thickness. And a very, very full, it's very, very thin, full flat grind. So it's a ton of distal taper in the blade. The blade stock's only 90 thousandths thick. Its first job was to cut through cardboard. And so my test was be able to grab kind of the hard thing, get triple layer where you get like we get containers of material coming in.
Yeah.
You know, the shipping crates that are made out of cardboard. Those are you know, there's really 6 layers of corrugate in there, or 3 layers of the assembly inside that thing. And you try and take any blade with any thickness, you can't cut through it because it just wedge. I don't care how sharp the knife is, you're shoving a wedge through material.
And it just wedges it.
So that blade is ground super, super thin, like thinner than most people are used to. And so I can't make that out of an S90V and expect that thing to live under normal environments. So I, did a bunch of materials research, called the experts, talked to the guys, and I ended up at 3V. So it's kind of normally 3Vs is, that's what your chopping knife's going to be made out of, right? I went the other way. I took the advantage of having this super tough, pretty corrosion resistance, pretty good edge retention steel, and now make a knife super thin. So this thing can basically survive in geometry that you normally couldn't do a knife out of. I still pushed it though. It's still thinner than it probably should be.
Yeah.
But you take a screw out, replace the blade, and keep on running it, right?
Exactly.
So the idea is that even if you do break it, if you use it the way I do, what I don't like is taking a knife and then breaking it and then not being able to service the thing and throw it away.
Right. Exactly.
All of our sharpeners, all of our products are made that anything on it that's consumable doesn't end the life of the product.
Exactly.
We want you to be able to replace that and keep running. That's how you get the value out of the thing over your life.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
And so I think the same way in knives. So, just in hardware, that's an Allen head, or
Yeah, exactly.
So you can use regular hex bits, or this one's kind of fun because you can use a T8, a number 2, or I think it's a 9/64 bit. So everyone's got a bit to run this thing. You don't.
I didn't realize you could use a number 2 as well. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
And so or 2 millimeter hex wrench, but so no fancy fasteners that you can't service.
Yep.
And
nothing proprietary.
No.
You can go down to the local pawn shop if you had to, and they're gonna have a wrench you can buy for.
Everybody's got a wrench to take your knife apart because we want you to take it apart, which is the other part of this thing that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Is the knife is convertible between functions, and so you pull that one screw out.
Yep.
These 2 pivots come out, the bearings, anything, whatever function you want in there. So you can swap this thing between a ball bearing version to a bronze bushing version if you like the feel, or you use it in really dirty environments.
Yep.
The bronze bushing worked a little bit better for that dirty environment. And then the fun one is you can take this pivot out and load one in that's got a spring in it, and now it's an automatic. It's a push button auto at that point.
Yep.
So you can tailor the knife to your application.
Yeah.
Now, I don't expect people to switch it back and forth as they're using it.
Right. That makes sense.
But it is you've done it before. It's it's like, 30 seconds. If you're really good at it, it's 30 seconds to a minute. First time might take you 10 minutes. But
because you're just like, how does this go? Whatever. But it's
together,
very painless. Correct. And then, like you said, once you've done it once, you've done it, right?
And super serviceable. We did a small sales test this thing because we like to test the crap out of our products.
Yeah.
So we've had people break the blades. And so I just send them a new blade. You don't have to send me your knife, and wait, 2 weeks or 2 months to get your knife back. I'm going to send you a blade, and you're going to fix it yourself. That's kind of the idea. Is that my whole principle of things is we should all be fixing more stuff ourselves.
Yeah.
And then you can, under advantages, of course, if we turn this into something, once we're up and running, you'll be able to customize the knife. You'll be able to change blade type, blade steel, either for your application or because it's pocket jewelry.
Yep.
With this color pivot, this color handle, it'll be fun.
Yeah, there's so many ways to easily customize where you don't have to worry about, again, oh, I got 10 screws I got to keep track of, or like, oh, I don't know how this bearing system works, or oh, I lost some, right? Like, it's just you've taken 50 years of passion, right?
Yeah.
Like, 50 years of work and passion, right? And I feel like you've done such a stellar job at condensing it into, like, condensing all of these ideas that we like as enthusiasts, and then the ideas and needs of a business, and you've locked them into like one product. That's what makes me so excited about this knife. Yeah.
First time me making a production knife. But
yeah, exactly.
That's
like, and it's a new thing, right? But like, and I'm only one user. I'm only one person, right? But that's what has got me so excited.
But my intention was, and I know it's not the hottest thing in the industry because it's not part of Knives Day, but I wanted you to be able to service it. I love the fact that, back in this multi-tool, I could basically replace the blade when I broke the blade or whatever.
Yep.
And the parts were available, Yep.
And
so it was that'll be the idea, is if we're selling this, if this turned into something, you'll be able to buy this knife, and like I said, you're going to get your time's value out of this thing. So I want you to be able to use this knife even if you break the thing. I don't want that knife down. I want you to either send it back to us, or ideally the quicker way is we send you the parts.
Which is a huge departure. I mean,
correct.
You'll see, like, certain companies will do that from time to time, right? Like, I mean, you've had experiences, right? Oh, I broke a knife blade. Can you send me a knife blade? But the fact that it's baked in, it's not an exception, it's the rule.
Yeah,
right?
all domestic knife companies, and by the way, most knife companies, wherever you are, the service knives is, the warranty, the service. I can't think of a knife company right now that's just not phenomenal. I mean, I wish any industry had the literally had the ethics of the knife industry. When Benchmade, some of these companies, it became their shtick for a while, but everyone's is. I've like I say, I've broken a lot of knives, and I don't expect them to warranty them because I'm buying them to break them in a lot of cases. But I've talked to them and just tested, and there's in this industry for years, and I've had people that buy knives and send them back, or they come to me with a broken tip and it's broken too far, so it's not really one you should repair, and call them up, send it back. I've never seen a knife company not warrant. Gas station knives, yes. Of course. You can't even get in contact with a knife company. But if it's a major brand, any U.S. brand, as far as I'm concerned, you're gonna get phenomenal service from them. And there's just that I know of. There's no industry that's what I love about this whole industry. They're all people that work together. I get to go talk with, Ken's a competitor of mine, and a brother, and a friend, and that's not unusual in this industry.
Not at all.
It's all, I mean, you and Ben and
exactly.
It's such a close knit. It's exciting getting in. That's one of the things I look forward to in the knife industry. Is it's tough to compete here because there's so many good products. I mean, it is amazing.
And it feels like it feels like we've found this, like, as an industry, like you were saying earlier, like, there was an investment in process, and there was an investment in tooling, and and as an industry, we just, like, that rising tide raised all the boats. So it really is like, sure, you can get duds, and sure, not every knife made is great, but like any knife company that you know the name of, chances are they've got at least 5 to 10 knives that are just winners, like, just stellar.
And the service, the after sale support, these people are just all good people. Maybe there's an exception, but I've been in the industry for 20 years, and I don't know of one off the top of my head. So it's fun that we're in that industry now. We're trying to get it now. We're new at it, so we're going to struggle as we get in.
There's the growing pains and learning and customer feedback. But that's the other great thing is what I found, because I've worked both sides of this. I've been an enthusiast, and I've seen the back end of things as well, right? And that's another thing that I will say is, you definitely can get people in the knife industry get like on the buyer side that can get a little fired up and a little, and maybe have unrealistic expectations, right? And you have to temper that. But for the most part, right, like, even the customers communicating with the companies, almost always that communication is fairly positive. It's fairly like, hey, this sucks, but let's figure it out. You know what I mean? And so I'm sure that the community will be here to, you'll get your onions, of course, but or not your Ken onions, but you'll get your bad players. But I think for majority of the community is going to be here to support this, because I think that this is something that's really important. I hate the word game changer. I hate that word. But, like, I honestly struggle to think of another word for this design.
There's so much good that's out there that I don't expect, or even I wasn't aiming for game changing,
Yeah.
because there's so much. Like I say, there's no bad tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, very few bad tools.
Right.
So there's a lot, and I still carry every day all sorts of other products that I just love. So this is not the displace everything. It's for what I was looking for. I'm very happy with what I've got, but it's not a salt knife. It's not a, there's applications with this I wouldn't recommend using this thing. There's applications where you better be using a fixed blade.
Yeah, exactly.
You shouldn't be using a folding knife in that thing.
Yeah.
And there's some states where or some jurisdictions,
right.
That where they may still consider that, even though it's a manual, because it's one hand opening. The guys in the UK are not going to let you carry that thing because it's a one-hander open, that type of thing. So it's not a salt wall.
No, definitely not.
But
It's.
I hope it turns out to be a fun and great product for people.
Yeah,
our company will always make sure it's of value. Even if we screw something up, it's going to be a value to you, because we're going to support you at the end. Yeah. And that's what I love about working for this company and in this industry now. It's fun to see that. And you're knee deep in this now, doing your own knife and your own knives, and it's fun. Why I've been in the industry on the sharpening side for long enough. I've seen all you young guys spawn out of this thing. And so it's fun seeing Ben Peterson. I used to, when we were back in the day, watching you and Ben, and I do a lot of my research by looking at what other people make and how other people see the knives. So I've learned a ton from you guys over the years, just saying, hey, this is really cool, even when you weren't knife experts. But now that you are, I learned so much from you guys too. It's fun to see this whole industry growing. And I'm from the the older generation. Like Ken was the young guy when I was getting into knives, but back when I was buying, a half a dozen knives a year, it was the Blackie Collinses, the Michael Walker. I'm back in that vintage, and seeing some of those, like Walker coming back in new knife designs with Columbia River, was just a blast to go see, because I've always loved his work. It's more jewelry, not my thing.
Yeah, for sure. But
I can recognize beauty when I see it, and also great mechanism design, and great, he's also a part of modern knife design, not just art. The mechanism of it and the function of this stuff comes from these guys, and it's really fun to see them come back in.
Yeah, it's been fun. Specifically, I've noticed with CRKT, like them, like going back and pulling out some of these older designers. And I'm with you. I love seeing it, because that's something that's really unique about CRKT, is that they've worked with everybody. I mean, you name a name that matters in knife in the last 20, 30 years, chances are they've worked with CRKT. And that's something I really appreciate about that.
And I love seeing, you have Buck on one end, who's been building the same, I think they did an article on Buck 110s, right?
Yep.
I think that knife's probably sold more than any folding knife ever that I'm,
Yeah, no, definitely.
But but the design to stick to a recipe that worked, even though that, if you base recipe of Buck 110 is not a hit recipe today, but the knife's still a hit because it still works. It still does its job today. And then to see them throw new materials at, what used to be a 440C, and to start throwing new materials into the same knife, for a premium, it's fun that you have these designs like a leak. I mean, this thing is just, there's got to be thousands of different SKUs or versions of the leak over there.
Yeah, I can only I could probably name 20 off the top of my head.
I just saw a video this morning of one that looks like a rainbow trout.
Yep.
It's like, and you can pick up a leak from, I think this is a fairly new one, but if I had my old leaks from back in the day, you can pick them up, and they're such good designs. That same design gets to stick for that many years. It's amazing to see that thing happen. And then you have the innovation that's happening, where there's so much innovation now. Kaisers and Wees and Reichs and these guys, where every knife is just phenomenal, and that knife may live on the market for 6 months.
That's the thing that blows me about like the Chinese makers specifically, like the import stuff.
The quality is obscenely good.
Yeah, like the level of quality is just unbelievable, right? Yeah. And then the fact that they'll introduce a SKU, and then it's 6 months, 8 months. Yeah. And then it's gone. And you're like, why did that leave? You know what I mean?
Well, they obsolete it themselves, because they replace it with 10 more that are also better and different.
It's like every quarter they're releasing more knives than you can even pay attention to. Yeah. And you're like, which one's going to bubble to the top? And
the level, you've seen it, but the level of craftsmanship and precision and quality in, not just U.S., but all knives, everything coming in. That's why I'm saying gas station knives are actually impressive.
Yeah, I mean,
If,
gas station knives,
there is still some terrible stuff
of
that's
course,
out there,
yeah,
but
yeah.
but it's to see the change in capability and price. Everything's gotten more expensive, but yeah, I mean, Benchmades, and there's some brands that have gotten, I wouldn't say out of my budget, but out of a knife that I want to break, or
Right.
I want to use hard enough
Yeah,
to
yeah.
break.
That you would buy two of just to break one.
Correct. They've definitely
Right.
gotten to the point where I'm not buying two of them,
Yeah, because Worksharp has a really interesting. You guys have like a hybrid system,
Yeah.
where you're doing a ton of work here in Oregon, and then you don't just contract with somebody overseas. You guys have a facility overseas that is Worksharp facility, and so like you guys have I think you guys have a really interesting perspective on that, because you're dealing with some import stuff, you're dealing with some U.S. stuff, and then it all comes together here.
Yeah, we have and it's kind of my core belief on this thing is that bringing, again, your time is valuable. So I want to make sure we can go build the same sharpener 100% in the U.S. Even though we do some of the work here, we have to source some of the stuff here. But our goal is to get you the best we can get you for your money, for your time, right? And in some cases, that means we have to source it, from other countries. We do it ethically. We do it smart, so we know anybody we're buying from, they're either a direct partner of ours, or we will go live in their factories and make sure these are people that we can trust, so that you can trust us, type of thing. And then our hands are on everything, so we do the assembly in here. We make sure that as best we can, we'll make mistakes just like anybody else does. But and it's not always the perfect fit or perfect product for somebody too. But that's the idea of what we're doing, is how can we bring you the highest value? And that doesn't mean it's the cheapest thing, and it doesn't mean it's the best thing or the toppest in the best materials or whatever it is.
Yeah. What
it means is you're going to get the most time and usage out of our product that we could give you. And maybe it's not perfect, and we'll get better as we learn, but that's where our company is, and that's fun to see that a lot of the knife industry is also shifting that way too.
I would agree with that. I mean,
you can still buy bucks. I mean, bucks, made in USA bucks that are still. It's amazing. They can Kershaw buck. Some of the Gerber stuff, they've all held their prices for, and maintain that when the cost of producing those things have gone through the roof.
Just the cost of raw material, of transporting material, like everything is so expensive
and volatile. It's always up and down. Anybody watching this is, if you're an enthusiast, that there's some knife steel industry stuff going on right now that's got us all nervous. I was going through, what I do, EDC, like knives that are in the 20 or so knives that are in my standard rotation. And there was very few non-crucible steels in there. So all of that, it's a big industry, but it's really a small family-run thing. So there may be some disruption, but I look at everything like this as an opportunity too. So every time this we see a disruption, there's an opportunity to do something differently, or learn something else, or find use a steel that I haven't been using and haven't fallen in love with. Because there's a lot of carpenters, there's a lot of other good manufacturers out there. I've been using German stuff, steels in our products for years, and so and I'm a 14C, 13C. I'm a Sandvik. I love the value. I'm a value. And it's hard to beat 14C 28.
That's what I chose for the Yonder. You know what I mean? Like that's
exactly.
Like when we were talking with Civivi, and we're like, okay, is this a Civivi knife? It is a WE knife, and I'm the same. Like, because I grew up like we didn't have money growing up. You know what I mean? And so even for a $58 knife, like in today's world, that would have been maybe a $20 knife or whatever back then. But still, like that was a lot of money, And so I wanted to make something that everybody could have access to, that most people could enjoy. If you have a big hand, it's probably not a knife for you, right? But when it came to blade steel, they're like, okay, what do you want to do? And I'm like, dude, the value proposition with 14C is just, it's just great in that range.
Most people don't realize how good of a steel it is too. 14Z, Nitro V, ABL. Those are kind of
all kind of in that same family.
Really similar steels. I like Nitro V because it's got a cooler name.
Exactly.
But those three steels, you can find them. They're value steels because they're easy to process. So what you'll find, like 3V, is really a premium steel for toughness, right? 3V and 14C28 or Nitro V are really close to each other in toughness. 14C is a stainless, 3V is a borderline. It has enough chromium to be borderline. Depending on how you heat treat it, you can get pretty good corrosion properties on it. But 3Vs, can be a bit tougher than 14C, but it's way beyond a lot of steels that we cherish. And so you can use 14V in ways that you can't use, or 14C28 in ways you can't use any other steel.
Yep.
I've always seen 14C28 as a premium steel that you get. It's like the most value steel you can buy.
Exactly. I really do think it is. Yeah, I really do.
I probably own 100 knives in 14C.
Yep.
Not just because I'm a Kershaw fan, or I own 14C, and I've got your knife in 14C. I love 14C.
Yep.
It's a dependable. It's inexpensive, or it's a high value because it's easy to process.
Yep.
It's not because it has inferior properties. Yes, it's not 2% carbon, right? So it doesn't have ridiculous edge retention. But guess what? It's super easy to sharpen and very, very fine grained, and really easy to get a very, very fine edge on it.
Exactly.
Which is why it's one of the things like Crucible. That's the kind of the risk or shock to the industry right now. Is Crucible makes these really high performing steels, but their powder process allows you to take what would normally be a large grained, hard to good wear resistance, but never very sharp.
Yep.
And then you break that up into much smaller, grains, and all of a sudden you get a very, very high performing steel, and that still gets really sharp at 2% carbon, which was back in the 14C days would have been unheard of.
Yep.
Right. That's what D2 was the hot. If you've been around long enough, remember there was a time many years ago when D2 was the hot high edge retention steel.
I paid $180 for a Benchmade knife with D2.
Yeah.
back in the day.
And now it's a value steel. D2's never been a bad steel. It's just a very, very large grain steel. So it is never a super sharp steel, right?
Yep.
It can be, but and obviously you can powder D2, which there's some CPM D2 out there, and that's some pretty dang impressive steel.
Yeah, exactly.
So just the processing can take, there's so much more than just the recipe. The recipe is not just the ingredients; it's also how you work it.
Yep.
And that's the advantage of some of these like 14C Nitro V is that they're so easy for the manufacturers to process. You get more consistent properties from it. You get up into the super steels that need cryo and multiple steps to heat treat and finish and do everything. And if you do one thing wrong, they turn brittle, or right. There's steels out there. I'm still a plain carbon steel guy. I love 1095. I love my old rusty, cases and old timers in the works because they're so easy to sharpen, so easy to put an edge on.
Yep.
Relatively tough, not tough like my modern steel standards.
And really, at the end of the day, like especially where you're consuming knives, right?
Yeah.
You're eating knives, right? Like that easy to sharpen has got to be a huge identifier for you, right?
And I'm a sharpening guy, so it's but I love a super steel too.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of S90Vs or the very higher edge retention stuff. They're a challenge, right? I mean, obviously it takes a lot more time.
Yeah.
Like I built some thicker drop points and just prototyping out of S90V, S110V stuff.
Cool.
And putting the first edge on them, and I put them on manually the first. So I take no edge. I go from no edge to shaving.
Yeah.
I do it manually the first time.
Yeah.
I want to get that full experience of what. And it's like hours.
Yeah,
sitting on a bench stone to get that, especially when some of the thicker grinds that I was doing.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
Hours to get that stupid thing to apex the thing finally. Whereas the same thing in a Nitro V is minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
But I've challenged our video guys here to one of these days we'll do a test where we'll take a super steel and a cheap steel and run like a long cutting test. where all the knives have to be resharpened.
Right. Yeah.
In my opinion, the easier to sharpen steels, if you're efficient at sharpening, whether it's a tool you have or your skill yourself, if you're efficient at sharpening, you'll probably outrun. Obviously machines and stuff where the downtime of sharpening is not worth it. You need to run really high edge retention stuff.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, for what's in your pocket, again, I'm biased. I'm a sharpening guy.
Yeah.
But what's in your pocket, easy to sharpen is more important to me than edge retention.
And that's the thing is like talking with knife steel nerds. I sat down with, he was at Buck, and we did a video together, and that video got a ton of views and a ton of comments, rightfully so, because he's the inventor of MagnaCut.
Yeah.
And in video, but he also works in steel science for like car manufacturers and stuff. Yeah. And in the video, he's like,
Yeah, no, steels are great, but like grind's what matters.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm like, I was so happy he said it because it's like nobody talks about this, but here's the reality of your super steels
Yeah.
is like depending on the grind,
Yeah.
right? Like depending on that's gonna make a huge difference on what your knife's gonna be able to do or not do, right? And how well it does what it's supposed to do, you know?
Yeah, it's and it was fun when I saw Laren because I read his books and watched him.
Yeah.
But when I saw his data on that, because it reflects what I've known for and done for years, is that edge geometry and overall blade geometry is far more important than, you know. But when you're pushing the boundaries, you need everything. You need steel, you know, geometry and, you know, blade geometry, and you need the whole thing to push up into that top 1%. But you can get 90% there with some 8CR,
Exactly.
right? And some good geometry. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, and then it'll be easier to sharpen.
Correct. So
that's great. Well, I'm so glad that we were able to talk about that knife because there's a lot more to come with that, guys. It's exciting. It's really exciting. I'm excited for you guys to be able to try it out and get it in hand as well. And that brings us to our final category, which I basically was just like grab 2 fixed blades that kind of like capture your fixed blade philosophy. And now knowing more about like how you grew up and where you came from, I'm really interested to see which knives you chose.
So, and what you were saying is fixed blades that really reflect where I see fixed blades.
Yeah, exactly.
What's 2 examples of that?
Yeah.
And so the most important one is that fixed blades are something in reality with a little bit of perseverance we all can make.
Okay.
So this is my wife's, I think, great uncle. So it was her dad's uncle. He worked at a mill and he made this out of a saw blade or something like that, right? And he's got dozens. So what's weird is I was trying to find one of my knives because I've been making, you know, doing the same thing for many years. I tried to find one. I couldn't even find one because I used them up.
Just used them up.
But this was something he just did as he took old steel. There's some great S2s, A2s. There's some great steels used in sawmills, right? And so he would basically bring home stuff from work or his buddies had or whatever, and he'd sit back in his garage in a grinder or by hand and something. A bunch of the stuff is done by file. You could clearly see. This is one of the older ones. It looks like he actually built this with files.
That's incredible. You know? I've made knives with files from old saw blades.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, but for me, that gets down to the most basic of knives and cutting edges. Yeah. Right. This is something we are all capable of doing ourselves. It's time, and time is valuable, right? Our time is valuable, but I encourage everyone to do this one time. This guy, he was gone before I was around, but we found dozens of these knives laying around that are all kind of this. Some are little paring knives, some are whatever. But he obviously enjoyed doing this, and it's a kind of fun part. I've got one. This isn't one, but I have one that I still use in the kitchen today.
Cool.
And I'm guessing this knife is 70, 80 years old, maybe something like that.
Just made by
no one knows.
Yeah.
And it's still a great knife. It's a little thick paring knife, but for a couple things, it's a great for its application. And so that's my first thing in fixed blades is that this knife would personify, I think, what is the coolest part of fixed blades is, piece of wood and a piece of old spring and some time and trial and error. I won't call it skill. I'm literally going to call it trial and error, right? And it's fun. And you got a fixed blade. So to me, that's...
Go make a fixed blade.
Yeah, seriously. Try it. Start from a kit if you want to, but it's not much different than starting from a piece of old spring steel.
Exactly.
Whatever you've got. For me, I've got several of these. I've been on this venture for many years to find the EDC fixed blade.
Okay. Yeah. Same. I've been high and low looking for like the EDC fixed blade. Yeah.
So the next thing in fixed blades for me is the sheath.
Yes.
So here's an example of a really good. I love, for me personally, because I'm all scar tissue, so I have no problem. I treat that that finger guard as a finger choil. So this is about the perfect length for me. I love this just over 3 inch. And as I'm getting older, right at 3 inches. Yeah. Like kind of idea, because I can get up all the way up on the tip of that thing and use it and just go. I love that length of blade, and it's still. That's not bad. That's an 8-inch knife. Yeah. Maybe my hands are kind of big, so maybe it's 8.5 inches, something like that. Love this knife. Can't carry it because of the sheath. Yep. So if you're gonna carry a fixed blade, the sheath is where it's at. And this is not a bad sheath. No. But you'll see that knife went right through that thing into my leg.
Oh,
So I keep my knives really, really sharp.
of course. Yeah,
right?
yeah, you
'Cause
better.
That's what I do. And one time I carried this thing for about a week, and one time it found its way outside of that sheath. And I didn't feel anything as it went in because it was sharp.
Yeah.
I like to keep this stuff nice and sharp. So it went through the sheath, through my pants, into my leg, and not a little bit into my leg. it was a 3-staple fix.
Yeah, yeah.
It's got great retention. It's got everything else, but
Right.
that's something that's tricky in fixed blades, especially in ED fixed blades, to be able to pull off that carry. And I've been on literally a 50-year quest to find. Someday I'll come up, but I haven't. Making the knives myself, I have still yet to make. My target customer is one person, me.
Right. and you still have yet to land it.
And I bought dozens, or honestly, if my wife knew, probably 100 EDC-able fixed blades, and still have yet to find the combination of sheath, blade, handle, everything that's perfect for me.
So for me, for EDC fixed blade, I like an in-pocket fixed blade. Because right, like getting it out of the car, like seatbelt, like you have the fixed blade on. So the one that I've found that right now currently is my favorite is there's a maker out of Texas called Dovel Blades, and he has a knife called the Beekeeper.
Yeah.
Best in pocket fixed blade I've ever
out.
had. The sheath is great, the clip is great, and then for me the knife it looks kind of like a shiv. So going back to like jewelry, right?
Yeah.
There's like an aesthetic to it that I'm like, I don't know why, but I really like how like kind of like tough it looks.
Yeah.
But more importantly, it's a great working blade. He uses like a tool steel for it because he's just a small maker.
Yeah.
He uses a whatever tool steel. So maybe the steel wouldn't work for you, but it's tough. It's got enough like utility in it that it can be used as a utility knife. And then it's got a knife that the handle for me, it feels like it's made for my hand. You know what I mean? We got a different hand. So, but yeah, the Doughboy Beekeeper, that might be one to check out.
My biggest thing is always getting that knife put away.
Yes.
safely.
And that's it. It's an inside.
We will all comfortably. I can stare right at you.
Exactly.
I can open, pull it out, deploy it, cut,
and
close,
put it back.
never look at what I'm doing, and back in my pocket. I was never nervous at anything I just did.
Yep. And I think if you're putting a fixed blade in your pocket, you have to inherently be nervous at some point, right? But this is a big thing with Doughboy for me as well. The retention is great, but also the top of the sheath is just a little wide.
A little flared.
Yeah, so when you go to put it in, once you get the muscle memory of it, right? What I do is I have my thumb on the outside, I tap the thumb, and then I'm able to just go right in. So I actually have gotten to where I can put it in and out that way.
I've got a couple of pocket holsters for pistols that have like a flared magwell, but a flared but there's a lead in so you can find it without having to ever get your finger near a dangerous part on the way in.
And that's exactly what Doughboy
It takes a lot of to me it takes a lot of focus for me to return that knife. I actually like OTFs. For I don't carry OTF all the time because I've got a secret that I can't tell you, but another concept prototype I'm playing with. But I like the idea of that I can basically it's like close to the safest knife you can operate.
Right.
You never have to change your hand position. You can open, as a practical use. They should never have been illegal. They should be encouraged because of the safety aspect of it.
Yeah. When you go back on the history of why
it's a joke.
It's a joke. Like there's an article called Toys That Kill. This, and like I'm actually working on a video breaking down why because it's so silly. I think it's great political commentary and it's great knife commentary.
When we're off camera, I'll show you what I'm working on.
Awesome.
That's kind of a fun.
You guys might see it eventually.
A fun take on it. I love that aspect of being able to use the tool safely. I'm a car guy, so I can't tell you how many times I've done this, and it's just aggravating that it's so common to me that it's my test for knives. Yeah, is that I get underneath the car pulling a gas tank.
Okay.
I don't know why, but every time you have to pull a gas tank, it's full of fuel. It's
every
never
time.
It's never empty.
Every time. It's 20-gallon tank, there's 19 gallons in it.
And I never take the time to pump or siphon the gas.
No, I hate doing that. I would rather get crushed than do that.
And so you're pulling a tank that you could have a 20, 25, especially truck tanks are ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And obviously I got a lift and everything at home, but I'm still manhandling that tank out. And I don't care what I do, there's always something left connected that I do.
Every time.
I don't care. Especially modern, I've got some modern cars too.
All the breathers and
there's, like I've got a newer Corvette that's got like 7 hoses going to the tank. I don't know what they're all for, but it's But you get that tank and you get the weight off you. Once you finally got that thing released and you've got the weight hanging off you and sloshing with fuel in it, and then you figure out you have one wire or one hose left. That's where I appreciate a phenomenally designed, easy to use knife.
Yep.
And so every time, that's my test for fixed blades. I actually have a setup that I use to test knives. As I started designing knives,
I love that.
I have one of my project cars sitting up there that I basically crawl underneath the thing as if I'm laying in the gravel. You lose a fuel pump out in the middle of Burns, Oregon on a Friday night.
Yep.
And you're gonna go change a fuel pump in the snow or on a gravel parking lot. As I imagine myself reproducing that. I won't go through the fuel, drop the tank and everything.
Yeah.
But I want that knife to be able, and that's the knives I'm working on are designed to literally around being the best at doing this. Is I want to be able to pull them out, deploy it, make my cut, retract it or fold the knife back up and get it back in my pocket while I'm holding onto a sloshing 20 gallons of fuel over my head.
I love it. I love how our
and
use
fixed blade has never.
Yeah, I've never been the one.
I've tried and tried and tried. What happens to the fixed blade, and I've carried them for years, is I'll pull it out. I carried another version of a knife very, very similar to that from another maker for many, many years. And that knife would never go back in my pocket. In that scenario. It always lays somewhere.
Yeah, you throw it out of the road so you don't sit on it as you try to get the tank out.
I'm hoping it's far enough away from me that I don't roll over it or slide over it. But and so in fixed blades, that's been the challenge for me. And then if it's not EDC, then it's a task built thing, and it's so specific at that point. But there's a fixed blade that you'll almost never talk about in these videos.
Yeah,
that's also.
Oh yeah,
really important.
Yeah,
and I'm a barbecue or smoker or whatever, but having the right chef's knife. This is by definition a fixed blade. Obviously, you're not carrying or chopping down trees with the thing.
Yeah,
but the same scenario of you can make a knife, you can make a fixed blade. This is one of my favorite brands, Japanese company called Tajiro.
Okay,
and very high value. It's a Sanmai, 3-layer, but plain carbon steel.
Yeah.
Right. This is white number 2 or something like that, right? It's
cool.
Steel, Hitachi steel. But the beauty of these things is make it what you want. So this was a Nikiri that was a vegetable cleaver.
Okay.
That was probably about that long, square-ended, like a regular Nikiri is, a little bit thicker, chisel ground.
Yeah.
And you can buy these knives in retail for like $35, and they're decent, really good steel. They perform well. They're fairly thin grinds. Yeah. All mostly handmade knives, but and high value. But I wanted a utility bunka shape, so I literally reground the profile on it. Is got a little more rocker in it than the Nikiri did. I reground the point, ground the flat off, and did, if you know what a bunka knife is, reground it to that. All really simple, done. And to test myself, I did this entire thing on a bench grinder.
Oh wow!
A tool that we all have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
And it was easy to do. You have to. Obviously, you're using a high-speed tool. You're constantly getting this thing in water or cooling it or putting on a heat sink to try, because your grinder is going to destroy the temper on this thing really quickly. And I actually ground the blade thinner.
Oh wow! Okay.
I actually did the primary grind with a 4.5-inch Harbor Freight angle grinder with a flat disc.
That's amazing.
And finished it. And so you can see from the stock here what I tapered out of it. You can feel it right there, the grind. And that's done. And I've done a few, but I'm not by any means any good at any of this stuff.
I think you're more humble than.
No, I definitely am not. I'm terrible. When I've seen the pros
so cool.
the pros work, I'm terrible.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Fair,
but I put the distal taper. I wanted it in there. I reground the entire primaries to it. I changed the shape of the knife from a $30 knife. And then this knife is me. It's what I want in the kitchen. It runs exactly like I want it to. I typically will run this thing when I'm doing any detail work. I'm pinched all the way up on this thing.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
And so you can do that with your chopper. You can basically go. That's the same thing that, in my opinion, that fixed blades are. They're so easy to make. They're so easy to modify and make yourself, especially on the kitchen, because I don't have to worry about a sheath.
Yep. Exactly. So
really hard to do this
if
the knife's in a sheath, because you can screw up retention. You can do all sorts of things. You can ruin a fixed blade pretty quickly because the sheath is so important.
Yep.
Right. But quite frankly, I think the sheath is more important than knife. Sheath design is way more important than the blade steel, in my opinion, in fixed blades. But EDC or a carried fixed blade.
Right.
But grab a kitchen knife and just, if you don't want to make the knife, go grab a kitchen knife and change the shape of it.
That's such a simple way to do. And you could pick up.
You can use a $30 Harbor Freight grinder
I was gonna say,
and make a new knife out of it.
You can pick a
It's
kitchen
just
knife up
fun.
for $10, 15, $20,
Grab,
right? Like,
grab Japanese knives,
yeah,
classic, wire
Yeah.
handles, and you can pound this handle off and slide other the handles are available. They're like $3 or $4.
that's awesome.
Made in Japan handles. You can change you go an octagon shaped handle, whatever you want to run. You can
Yeah.
make a righty lefty handle. They're designed to be maintenance. So this knife, this is kind of the fun part. The families that will run, this knife, they run it for a lifetime.
Right.
You don't do that with Western knives because the handles don't survive.
Right.
They're riveted on handles.
Yep.
Especially you go back to German or what we call Western blades.
Yeah.
Because they're meant to sharpen, but you either had to do a much more complicated maintenance where you had to basically, grind new scales. Which,
Like
is
drill out
not
pins
easy to do, and drill the rivets out and re-rivet the handle. This here, you just barely take a piece of dowel stock,
Right.
drill a hole in the end of it, and pound it on the tang of this blade. Is it the strongest thing ever? No, it's not.
No, yeah.
But they're wired.
But it can be repaired later even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
so
love
that's fixed blades has that. None of that's really available in folding knives. I'm trying to change that with Day Chef to make it so you can do your own maintenance.
Yep.
And that's normal to do maintenance, but fixed blades are the ultimate of that. Is especially Japanese fixed blades, and the fact that the handle's not even attached. You can
Exactly. Exactly.
Find a piece of wood or a tree or an antler you like, drill a hole in it, and pound it on the end of your knife, and now you just made a handle on your own knife.
Exactly.
So
you have your own handle.
if you want to personify fixed blades, it's that.
I love
Yes,
that.
fixed blades can be made out of super steels.
Of course.
Awesome choppers. You can do all these really cool things with
Yeah.
fixed blades and all sorts of fantasy zombie killing stuff.
Right.
In reality, you can cut a mean steak or cut up some squash or whatever is your thing.
Yeah.
Right. And you can do it with a knife you made or modified yourself easier in a fixed blade than you can do with anything else.
I love that.
It's the easiest way to get in.
Well, yeah, I mean, that is honestly, I've made my own fixed blades, like same thing, right? Like done similar things to that, but I've never even thought of like grabbing like an existing like kitchen knife or an existing fixed blade and modifying, right? Like I love that. I absolutely love
It's not
that.
easy to add steel, but it's really easy to take it
away.
off.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
can take it off with file. These are all hard enough that file work doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
When you're into modern steels, it's not.
Yeah, grinders. You got to go grinder.
You're in a grinder, but a diamond file. You could literally sit down with a diamond file or a diamond stone. You might wear out a diamond stone, reprofiling a knife, but it's your knife now.
Exactly.
To me, that's the fun part of fixed blades. Is it?
It's awesome.
So I own a lot of fixed blades, but I actually don't buy that many.
Yeah.
Because why?
Yeah, exactly.
There's incredible fixed blades on the market.
Yeah, there are. There really are.
But there's so many. As a tinkerer and a guy who likes to just build and tweak and modify,
that's the way to go.
It's fun.
Yeah.
They're just fun.
Yeah. No, I love that, and that's the reason that I have that as the last category, right? And that's the reason that I say 2 is because I have this theory that you can kind of triangulate a person based on how they view fixed blades.
Yeah.
And like, I think you captured it perfectly, right? Like here you are talking about fixed blades, and you're like, make it, modify it, and also sometimes not the best because it's not the most practical for for the task that you're conquering, right? Like, and channel, like I say all the time, like, need what you carry what you need, carry what you need what you carry, right? And I think that hits that note really well.
And
so I love to see so much of what we've talked about distilled into.
That is so important in fixed blades.
Yeah. It's honestly, like you said, that will make or break great knives. There are so many awesome fixed blades I just won't carry because I hate their sheaths. You know what I mean? Yeah, 100%.
And this solves all that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a folding fixed blade.
Be willing to abuse.
Yeah.
I mean, any folding knife I can pull out. That'll do what a fixed blade does.
Yep.
I'm going to break it. I'm going to abuse it.
Yep.
Right. But
it will do it.
It will do it.
Yeah.
So my favorite fixed blade is 2 folding knives.
Yeah.
Probably.
I love that.
Seriously. But just because I don't have to deal with any of that stuff, it's much more portable. It does everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
It'll go in and out of the pocket like you want it to. Yeah.
But there's one thing a folding knife will never solve in anything. That's hygiene. That's especially around food. So my food prep is 100%. I literally don't cut an apple with a folding knife. Yeah. Because even though I've designed I know other people do, so I made hopefully the easiest to clean folding knife you can go get. But hygiene. Yeah. Having a one-piece steel, and I own dozens of fixed blades, but I made many of them. There's no scales.
Right.
It's literally just a handle, or,
Yeah.
built out of the same raw steel, because that's the most hygienic you could make a knife.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Can't go there with a folding knife. Even the easiest to clean folding knife will never be as hygienic as a fixed blade.
As a fixed blade.
Correct.
Yeah, because you could literally take that fixed blade, dump it in a bottle of bleach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Done. Nothing else to clean. I love it.
Other than that, you can do almost everything if you're willing to abuse it.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do with a fixed blade that you can't do with a large folder.
I really love your perspective on use. I love your perspective that you're like, yeah, it's a tool. It's here to be used, and I'm going to use it up. Yeah. And I also love the perspective that you're like, I also know what to expect with it, right? And I know that I am using this in a way, because I think that's, we're talking about like the knife customer side of things sometimes, right? And I think in a way that people have unrealistic expectations, right? And the fact that you're like, no, I know what to expect with this, right? Or I have at least an idea, right? And that you kind of work within that framework in consuming your knives and loving them in a way that you love them to death, right?
I believe they're consumables.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think so many of us, I definitely have knives where I wouldn't want to consume it, right? I'll use it, right? And I'm a pretty hard user. Like I'll use my stuff for what I want to use it for, but I'm not regularly blowing through knives. You know what I mean?
I made myself not bring in those customs and those.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want.
I think this really captures.
Is it my most cherished knives? Yeah, I've got a couple of customs and some guys have made for me.
Course.
Not my stuff, but
of course.
stuff that people with real skills have made. That I'm like, those are just works of art.
Yeah.
That's a different category than, in my opinion, than a knife.
Agreed.
Not devaluing at all, because I do the same thing. I have some of those too.
Yeah.
But,
Well, no, and I think what you brought, this really captures like what you're using and how you're using it. You know what I mean? And that's I think it's absolutely amazing. So I think to distill it down, right? It seems to me like I think we can say that a lot of your philosophy around this is destroy it to enjoy it, and don't be scared to modify. Yeah. Right. And I think that's you put those two philosophies together, and I think you're going to get a lot more out of your tools in general, right? You're going to get a lot more out of your experience as well, like just applying that generally, right? Like to the things that you do in life.
A $300 knife that is a safe clean, right, is of no value other than being a safe clean and a bragging rights piece. Right.
Yeah.
You're much as we bash gas station knives, but I guarantee you that $5 gas station knives have done more cutting and got more value out of them on the average or the whole. There's absolutely zero question. In my own collection, I own some couple of multi-$1,000 knives that have never seen anything. Right. I've sharpened them all because I have to do that.
Yeah, of course you got to.
But other than that, they just don't get used. Yep. Right. Yep. Those are trophies. Those aren't tools.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I understand.
$5 gas station knife is a.
That's a tool. Yeah.
It's a better knife. Yeah. It's a better knife.
Better knife. Ooh. Okay. I like that.
If you
that's
won't,
a hot take.
And so it's everybody's budget. When I talked to him as a mechanic, starting up as a mechanic, paying for college. Yeah. A leak, a storm. I don't know what I bought was my first Ken Onion, or my first nice knife off the Snap-on truck, but it probably cost me $50-$100 because you got the Snap-on.
Yeah, Snap-on tax.
But I paid the Snap-on tax, but I don't have that knife anymore because I used it up. You know what I mean? And that's to me, if you're not doing that, it's not a knife. Yeah. At that point.
Yeah. At that point, it's jewelry or collectible.
It looks like a knife.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah. We all have them, but I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying. Yeah. The $5 gas station knife is a better knife than $300 safe clean. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Because the definition of a knife is it being used, right?
Being a sharpening guy, I used to, and I admit to growing and being a better person now. Right. I used to just hate the idea of disposable blades, of utility knives. Of doing I built most of my current house. I try to do everything within reason. Even stuff that's not within reason, I try and do myself.
Same.
I like to learn and do. I've seen your. I saw when your channel drifted a little bit a few years ago. Yeah. and enjoyed it, but I couldn't stand using utility knives because I couldn't stand the idea of throwing it away. And then one of the guys that started here was not a knife guy, but was a utility knife guy. Yeah. And did his own DIY stuff. And he's like, just try it. So I carried one and I fell in love in a couple of weeks. It was like, it's actually really good. Dude, before that, I was always about the biggest practical blade I can fit in my pocket and still easily carry it. So I was carrying 4-inch folders. Yeah. And I had to go down to 3/4 inch or an inch of blade sticking out. I was like, there's no way this is going to work. And I realized, hey, it's actually better
Pretty good.
for 90% of what I do. Cutting a box tape with or opening those clamshell packages
Oh yeah.
with a cutting edge that's 4.5 inches away from your hand is not safe.
Not ideal.
And especially when it's stupid sharp and everything else.
Exactly.
Cutting that open with a disposable 10-cent blade.
Dude.
And so I've come around to small knives are better for almost everything that we do. So my knife collection has shrunk not by volume,
right,
by size. Because
cool.
I'm now my practical EDC. I've got a 2-inch, 2.2-inch blade that I did. I'm in love with the thing. That is if I only had one EDC that I carried for every day, would be that.
Yeah. Well, that's why I tell people the Milwaukee 1505.
Yeah.
If you just need a little tool in your pocket, you literally, like, price to utility, you can't beat it. You literally can't beat it. Like, you got a 2-sided utility blade in the blade itself. You've got a utility blade storage, so you've always got a sharp knife, and then you have a pry bar and a driver on it. Like, can't beat it.
Still today, it gives me the willies because sharpen the damn thing, but you can't on utility blades because they're only
exactly,
they're differential heat treated, so they're only hard, for
right at the cutting edge.
And you can't sharpen them because they use the cutting edge to hold them in. So if you sharpen them, they'll fall out of the holders and stuff.
Yep.
Still gives me the willies, but man, I get it now.
Right on.
Not one in my pocket, but I get it.
Well, dude, this has been a great talk. I've had a blast, and I like the other thing that I love about sitting down is, like I said, like we've gotten to know each other and everything, but it's been fun to like get to know more of your story as well. I'm still like, I'm gonna be thinking about your connection and Ken Onion's connection forever. like knowing you both, and then now knowing your background, it's just crazy how you just naturally gravitated to these things, and the way that you guys ended up doing work together is just so much fun. And hearing your use philosophy, I love it. Like, it actually, like, I'm a user. I like to use my stuff, but it's even got me thinking about things a little bit different, which is a lot of fun. Like, I think I'm gonna pick up some of those Japanese kitchen knives and have some fun at the house because I got a bench grinder. So I'll try my hand and see what we can get away with. So here's the thing: is you started out homesteading in the backwoods in Idaho, right? You go to college, you're working as a tech, you're working as a wrench, right? Like, you've obviously done work in other industries as well. I mean, what would you tell somebody who wants to be Dan? What's the philosophy, I guess, that would distill some of your design appreciation or some of your design considerations, right? We've talked through it a lot, but how would you distill it down for somebody that's like, I want to take this approach and I want to apply it to the things that I'm building or the things that I'm interested in?
There's two things when I look at people that, so it's not something for everyone, as well, I'll say first, right?
I love that.
But when I'm interviewing, new engineers or just advising people getting into, the idea of being a maker, an engineer, whatever, is probably the most important is curiosity. It's kind of funny, we're doing this thing, I'm looking at this plastic stool behind the tripod here, and while we were talking, I'm trying to figure out how they gated that. So I actually, before I leave this room, I'm going to flip that over because there's something in there that's made differently that I'm it's curious. I can't figure out what they did in that thing. And so I'm going to take it apart and figure it out. So if you have this innate curiosity, if you want to know what makes things tick, how things work, if you have that right off the bat, you've got 50% of this, And the other one is, and it's not fearless. There's lots of professions that are, there's guys out there doing. I have a whole family of law enforcement and military and stuff, and they're all way more courageous and tougher and more valuable to society than I am. But I'm not afraid to fail, right? And so, be very, very curious and just try stuff. I still have 9.75 fingers. They've been put back together and resewn a few times, but it's rare that the failure you have, don't read it as it's something that was to set you back. It's as soon as I fail, I learn, right? And some of the failures are painful. Some of the failures are expensive. Some of the failures are, funny and fun. Right. And so I started years ago, aiming for failure. I literally started designing things that I didn't think would work, that should have had a potential to work. But, I think I've told you the origin story of the first belt sharpener. It's like, I was like, you can't do what I'm going to do. You can't run a knife into a flexible, very soft, like the one material we have. There's no way you can feed that into a knife edge and not have it cut or lunge or whatever. I was like, so I'm going to design it and see what happens. And turns out it works great.
Yeah.
And so it's important. You're not going to learn if you only, you're not really testing or engineering if you're only building something that you know works. And so it's important to try things that might make sense, or try things that other people have done, and didn't work.
Yeah.
Try that, or go after the concepts. What I do is I test the things that I might work but probably won't, and I don't spend my time on the stuff that I know works.
Yeah.
Right. I use materials that have these pretty big challenges, like the reactivity of magnesium, for instance, or making 3V super thin instead of super thick, which is what most of the industry does. Takes that material and makes it because it's great at being super thick. Well,
Yep.
Turns out actually really freaking good at being super thin. It's more advantageous being thin, because I can make S90V or S110V last if it's thick enough.
Yep.
In a hammer.
Yeah.
You can make a S110V hammer.
Right.
Right. You can't make an S110V scalpel. That you can, the thinner you make it, the more risk you're going to have from it, right? So it's just stuff like that. It was like, in theory, this could work, but I don't spend my time testing it. But if challenging myself to go do that thing, if I know it works, that's a waste of time.
No, I love that.
It's low risk, but you also don't learn anything.
Yeah, you also don't learn anything.
Fail intentionally is what I'd say is, or pursue it knowing that you're going to make those mistakes.
I like that. I really like that.
And if it's not for you, dude, move on quickly. If you don't have a natural, innate curiosity for what makes things go. Yeah. Right. So if you're that person, you're an avid reader, or you're an avid take aparter or fixer or whatever. I've probably never thrown anything away that I didn't take apart first.
Right.
I want to see what's inside of here. But if some of that's not there, this may not be natural to you. So it may be more of a challenge.
Yeah.
And then if making something and having it not work is really disappointing, this definitely won't be unless you're just, there's some people who are just like super good at this stuff, and so everything they do works. I'm definitely not one of those.
Yeah, fair. Same. I fail a lot.
If you've seen a product of mine, I've made 100 of them before you saw it.
Right. But all that failure adds up to something that's worthwhile, right? And we can see that in the products at Worksharp, right? Like there's a lot of failure that's gone into the success that is the product that the customer is getting. Yeah. And I love that, because I think that we build safeguards so much around ourselves, and it's really easy to do that, especially in the world we live in, right? Is to live really safe and really comfortable and never have to fail, right?
We've gotten really comfortable and really safe in modern age.
And if we're even scared of failure, there's almost for sure there's a way that we can course alter, so we don't even have to get near that idea, right? And so I love that. Yeah, obviously there's a natural curiosity, especially where you're sitting, right? There's a natural curiosity necessary for what you've done and where you're at, right? But then I think as humans, right, it's important that we find ways to be uncomfortable sometimes. Yeah. And I think that failure is a great way, even small failures, right? Like cooking in the kitchen, right? Try a new recipe. Oh, did the cookies come out bad? Okay, fine. Throw them away and try again. You know what I mean? But like getting experience with failure and getting experience with engaging with things, right? Because if you're really engaging with something, you're failing. And like sometimes, right? Yeah. I love that.
You should be.
Yeah.
But patience is, I guess, the one my weakness is patience, because you have to have like some of the stuff I do, it takes weeks, months to prototype, to actually get a functional, to get to where it can even test, because in some cases I have to literally we have to make tooling in order to test this material. I can't test it until the tooling is there to make. And so patience to do that is that's my kryptonite. It's really hard to have the patience, and knowing that, by the way, I designed this in a way that it's more likely to fail than it is to pass. If it passes, it'll be awesome. Yeah. But if it doesn't work, right. And I try and push the limits of what we're doing, because that gives you the highest value. Like, I'm going to design this thing with the least amount of material possible, to get you the highest values, but still achieve the job. So in all those cases, we're basically trying to push. It doesn't look like it in our designs because they're, I would say, pretty basic, but intentionally so. Yep. But the idea is I'm going to try and save I'm not going to overbuild everything and make you pay for something you never use. Right?
I like that.
That's the idea. So patience is also critical, and it is one thing I don't have a lot of.
That is one thing I'm horrible with. Yeah. When I'm waiting on something, if I'm waiting on a part, or if I'm waiting on, like if I'm doing an engine or whatever, and I'm like, I need this thing or whatever, and I come into the mail, it's all I can think about for like 3 days.
Yeah.
I basically don't want to do anything else until that part gets here. It's horrible.
It's easy to derail yourself.
Yeah, it is. It is very easy. Well, thank you so much for the time. This has been absolutely wonderful. This has been eye-opening. I love how we've just went in and out of so much about knives and making and
We got lost.
processing, and we got lost. And I think we got lost in the most beautiful way possible. It's been a blast. Like we promised, we are going to go grab some burgers. So let's show me what you got. Let's go get some burgers.
Let's do it.
Sweet.